Welcome, brave souls, to a journey through California's most haunted hike trails, where the whispers of the past echo through the trees, and the shadows seem to move with a life of their own. Whether you're a seasoned hiker or a curious adventurer, these paths offer more than just breathtaking views. They offer encounters with the unknown. So, lace up your boots, grab your flashlight, and prepare to step into the eerie unknown. Nestled in the San Gabriel Mountains above Altadena, California, the Mt. Lowe Railway Trail is known today as a scenic hiking path, but beneath its quiet beauty lies a dark history. Over a century ago, the Mt. Lowe Railway carried passengers through rugged mountains, offering breathtaking views and, in its heyday, it was a marvel of engineering. Yet the railway's history was far from peaceful. Accidents, mysterious disappearances, and untimely deaths marked its operation. And after its closure, legends began to form, whispers of ghosts lingering where the rails once clattered. Hikers who traverse the trail today often speak of eerie sensations that cannot be explained. The path winds past crumbling trestles, tunnels blocked by rubble, and remnants of the railway that hint at the trail's violent past. It is along these sections that visitors report the first signs of the supernatural. Phantom footsteps echoing on empty tracks, the faint creak of wooden ties shifting beneath invisible weight, and the occasional metallic whistle cutting through the silence of the mountains. Those who have spent hours on the trail alone describe an unsettling feeling of being followed, a presence brushing against the edge of perception, never fully seen but always felt. One of the most persistent legends involves Professor Thaddeus S. Lowe, the visionary behind the railway. He was a charismatic inventor, an aeronaut, and the railway's creator. But locals say his spirit never left the mountains. Some hikers claim to see a tall figure in a long coat wandering along the old rail beds, carrying a lantern that glows with a strange, otherworldly light. On moonless nights, this figure has been reported pacing near collapsed tunnels, pausing as if to inspect the ruins, then vanishing without a sound. Those who encounter him often feel a chill, an inexplicable dread, as if they are intruding on something sacred or condemned. The tunnels themselves are notorious for their supernatural activity. Once used to carry passengers through the mountains, the stone and brick passageways now sit partially collapsed, dark and foreboding. Hikers report hearing faint train whistles emanating from the tunnels, even when no other sound is present. Footsteps echo behind them, only to vanish when they turn to investigate. Some describe whispers carried on the wind, indistinct murmurs that rise and fall with the night air. The deeper one ventures into the tunnels, the more pronounced the phenomena become, as if the walls themselves remember the countless journeys and tragedies that passed through. Several visitors have recounted encounters so vivid they cannot be dismissed as imagination. One hiker, exploring the trail near the old Alpine Tavern ruins, claimed to see a train ghostly and translucent, emerging from the shadows and rattling along the broken tracks. The air turned cold as it passed, and the sound of iron wheels grinding over ties reverberated through the canyon long after the figure disappeared. The experience left the hikers shaken, insisting that the mountains were alive with memory, and that the railway's legacy was not confined to history books, but etched into the very rocks and timber of the trail. The ghost of Professor Lowe is not always malevolent. Many who report sightings describe a sense of guidance or warning, as if his spirit lingers to ensure that the curious and the unwary are aware of the dangers. Collapsed trestles, unstable cliffs, and hidden drops are frequent hazards along the trail, and some believe the supernatural activity is connected to these threats. A few hikers say that when they felt their footing falter or were about to step into danger, a sudden chill or a shadow moving across the path caused them to pause just in time. Whether this is coincidence or spectral intervention is impossible to prove, but it has become a recurring element of the trail's haunted reputation. Even the wildlife seems touched by the trail's spectral history. Birds fall silent in areas of intense activity, and nocturnal creatures behave erratically. At dusk, the quiet is so profound that even the whisper of wind through the trees seems amplified, creating an atmosphere thick with anticipation and unease. Hikers often describe the sensation of being watched, a presence hovering just out of sight, waiting silently as they navigate the twisted remnants of the railway. Over the decades, the MT-Low Railway Trail has become a magnet for paranormal enthusiasts and thrill-seekers alike. Some come armed with cameras, recording devices, and EMF detectors, hoping to capture evidence of the supernatural. Others simply hike in silence, feeling the history beneath their boots and the weight of the mountains around them. Time and again, witnesses recount the same phenomena. Phantom train whistles, footsteps on empty tracks, glimpses of a long-coated figure, and the eerie sensation that the railway's ghosts are still patrolling their old domain. The trail is not for the faint of heart. Between the physical challenges of steep ascents and crumbling pathways and the psychological tension induced by unexplained encounters, hikers must remain alert. Yet for those willing to brave its history and its mysteries, the MT-Low Railway Trail offers an experience unlike any other, combination of breathtaking natural beauty and chilling supernatural legend. Every step is a reminder that some histories refuse to rest, that some creators linger long after their work is complete, and that in the quiet of the San Gabriel Mountains, the past never truly fades. Visiting the trail during the day offers a sense of wonder, with sunlit vistas and the scent of pine. But as night falls, the trail transforms. Shadows lengthen, the wind carries whispers from forgotten tunnels, and the faint echo of phantom train wheels can unsettle even the most seasoned hiker. Whether it is the spirit of Professor Lowe, the echo of passengers long gone, or simply the imagination stirred by isolation, one thing is certain: the MT-Low Railway Trail is haunted, and it will leave its mark on anyone who dares to walk its storied path. Eaton Canyon Trail, nestled at the base of the San Gabriel Mountains in Pasadena, is known for its picturesque scenery, the gentle roar of streams, and the majestic waterfall at its heart. During the day, hikers are treated to sunlight filtering through oak trees, wildflowers carpeting the trail, and the occasional glimpse of a deer darting through the underbrush. But as the sun dips behind the peaks and shadows stretch across the canyon, the atmosphere changes, and the trail reveals a darker, more unsettling side, one that has been whispered about for decades. Local legend tells of a hiker who vanished near Eaton Canyon Falls in the 1970s. Her name was never widely reported, but the story endured, passed from generation to generation. She was an experienced outdoorswoman, well-prepared and cautious. Yet one afternoon, she disappeared while hiking alone near the waterfall. Search parties combed the canyon for days, but no trace of her was ever found. What made the story more chilling were the accounts of hikers who visited the area after her disappearance. Many claimed to see her apparition near the falls, appearing as a translucent figure, standing silently at the water's edge. Some said she seemed to beckon, her eyes wide with pleading or warning, before vanishing when approached. Visitors to the trail often report an overwhelming sense of being watched, even in areas where the canyon opens into sunlight. Whispers seem to drift on the wind, words indistinct but undeniably human. Hikers describe the sudden sound of footsteps behind them, only to turn and find the trail empty. The canyon itself seems to amplify these phenomena, the steep walls carrying echoes in unnatural ways, making it nearly impossible to distinguish natural sounds from the supernatural. The waterfall is the epicenter of most sightings and experiences. Some hikers claim that at twilight, the water reflects shapes that are not there during the day. Figures lurking among the mist, faces forming in the spray. The air feels heavier, colder, as if the canyon itself is holding its breath. One woman recounted reaching the falls at dusk and seeing a shadowy figure perched on the rocks above the water. When she called out, the figure didn't move. As she stepped closer, it seemed to dissolve into the mist, leaving only the sound of rushing water and the echo of something that might have been laughter or a warning. Others have described hearing a voice carried by the wind, low and distant, repeating a single word: leave. The tone is urgent, almost pleading. Hikers report sudden drops in temperature near the falls, chills that run through their bodies despite wearing warm clothing. In some cases, hikers experience disorientation, losing their sense of direction even though the trail is well marked. These experiences are so consistent that they have become a hallmark of the canyon's haunted reputation. Eaton Canyon Trail also holds a history of accidents and misadventures, which many locals connect to the supernatural activity. Over the years, hikers have slipped on slick rocks, become lost in dense foliage, or wandered off the path near the waterfall, sometimes suffering serious injuries. Some believe the spirit of the vanished hiker lingers, attempting to warn others of danger. Others think her presence is more malevolent, a restless entity tied to the canyon by the trauma of her disappearance. Either way, the trail has developed a reputation as a place where the living and the dead brush close together. Nighttime visitors experience the trail in an entirely different way. The sounds of the canyon, the trickle of water, the rustle of leaves, the distant cry of a bird take on a more sinister quality. Shadows stretch unnaturally across the trail, and the smallest movements can trigger a sense of panic. Some hikers have reported seeing glowing eyes peering from the foliage, moving quickly between trees, always staying just out of reach. The canyon seems alive with presence, an awareness that defies explanation, creating an atmosphere that is equal parts awe-inspiring and terrifying. Despite or perhaps because of its haunted reputation, Eaton Canyon Trail continues to attract hikers, photographers, and paranormal enthusiasts. Some come in search of the beautiful scenery, while others are drawn by the stories, hoping for a glimpse of the vanished hiker, or to experience firsthand the whispers and footsteps that have been reported for decades. Equipment like cameras, voice recorders, and EMF detectors are sometimes used, but the most common reports still rely on personal experience. Fleeting glimpses, chilling sensations, and a deep sense of unease that lingers long after leaving the canyon. Psychologists and folklorists studying the trail note that its geography contributes to the eerie phenomena. Steep cliffs, echoing canyon walls, and sudden shifts in lighting can distort sound and perception, amplifying normal noises and shadows. Yet the consistency of accounts over decades, phantom footsteps, apparitions near the falls, whispers in the wind suggests that something beyond mere geography may be at play. Locals maintain that the spirit of the vanished hiker remains a guardian or a warning, bound forever to the place where life was lost and mystery began. For anyone daring enough to hike Eaton Canyon Trail, caution is as important as curiosity. Stick to the marked paths, be aware of your surroundings, and remember that the canyon has witnessed both tragedy and mystery. As you approach the waterfall, pause and listen to the wind. You may hear more than the rush of water. A whisper, a sigh, or a fleeting shadow may remind you that some stories never end. The spirit of the hiker, lost decades ago, lingers in the mist, a silent observer of those who tread the path she once walked, ensuring that the memory of her disappearance and the warning it carries remains alive for generations of hikers to come. Griffith Park, sprawling across over 4,000 acres in the heart of Los Angeles, is famed for its hiking trails, scenic views, and historical landmarks. By day, it is a haven for families, joggers, and tourists visiting the Griffith Observatory. But as the sun dips behind the hills and shadows stretch across the canyons, the park reveals a far darker side, a place where legends and the supernatural entwine with its rugged trails, leaving those who wander after dark with chilling tales to tell. Locals speak of a headless horseman that roams the trails on moonless nights. The origins of this legend are murky, blending old folk tales with the park's history of accidents and disappearances. Hikers report hearing the thunder of hooves along the narrow paths, a sound that seems to come from nowhere, echoing unnaturally through the canyon walls. Some claim to see a dark figure astride a spectral horse, galloping past them at impossible speed, the silhouette missing a head, yet somehow aware of every movement along the trail. Those who encounter it often describe a sudden chill, a feeling of dread that sinks into the bones, and the eerie sense that looking back could invite the figure closer. Shadowy figures are also common along the park's trails. At twilight, hikers have reported fleeting shapes darting between trees, lingering just beyond the edge of sight. Some appear human but distorted, impossibly tall or misshapen, vanishing whenever approached. Others seem entirely otherworldly, with glowing eyes that pierce the dim light. The presence of these shadows has been reported consistently for decades, with witnesses describing the same sensations. The sudden stillness of the forest, the impression of being followed, and a feeling that the trail itself is alive, watching, waiting. One of the most haunting stories involves the ghost of a young girl who died tragically on the trails many years ago. She was known to locals as Mary, though her full story is obscured by time. Some say she slipped while exploring a steep section and fell to her death. Others claim she vanished while playing near an old horse trail. Whatever the truth, her spirit is said to linger. Hikers who venture near the site of her accident have reported soft giggles in the distance, footsteps that do not match any companion, and the fleeting appearance of a small figure in a white dress, standing silently among the trees. Those who approach often find that she vanishes without a trace, leaving only a cold breeze or the sound of rustling leaves as proof of her presence. Griffith Park's history adds to its reputation. Once a vast ranch with rugged terrain and secluded canyons, it has been the site of countless accidents, disappearances, and unexplained events. The steep inclines, rocky outcroppings, and dense brush provide the perfect backdrop for ghostly sightings. Hikers have reported feeling invisible hands brush against them, seeing figures appear at the edge of cliffs, and hearing whispers that vanish as quickly as they are heard. The combination of natural danger and paranormal legend makes the trails particularly unsettling after dark. One particularly chilling account comes from a late-night hiker who was exploring the trail near the old Griffith Park Zoo ruins. As he navigated the narrow path, he heard the sound of hooves approaching rapidly. He looked up to see a dark figure on horseback, headless, moving silently yet impossibly fast along the trail. The figure paused, and the hiker felt a weight pressing on his chest, a paralyzing fear that rendered him immobile. Moments later, the horse and rider vanished into the darkness, leaving only the echo of phantom hooves and the chilling silence of the canyon. He would later learn that no horses or riders were in the park at the time, and the trail was completely deserted. The ghostly presence of Mary, the young girl, is intertwined with this story. Many locals believe that the Headless Horseman and shadowy figures are drawn to areas of tragedy, particularly near her accident site. Hikers report that on nights when the moon is hidden and fog settles in the canyons, her apparition is most visible. Some say she appears to warn the living of approaching danger, while others believe she is a restless spirit, forever replaying the final moments of her life. Witnesses describe her as both ethereal and tangible, a fleeting reminder that not all who walk these trails return unchanged. Even during the day, the park carries a strange energy in certain sections. Areas near old ruins, steep drops, and dense groves are often quieter than they should be. Birds fall silent, and the wind carries an almost unnatural stillness. Hikers report that their instincts warn them to leave, even when there is no visible threat. Many of these daytime experiences echo the tales told after dark, suggesting that the supernatural presence in Griffith Park is persistent, tied to both the land and the events that have unfolded there over the decades. Griffith Park trails remain a favorite for thrill seekers, paranormal investigators, and hikers intrigued by its history. Stories of the Headless Horseman, shadowy figures, and Mary's ghost continue to attract those willing to brave the trails after dark. Visitors are advised to stay on marked paths, travel in groups, and respect the park's natural and historical significance. But for those who truly wish to experience its haunted side, stepping off the beaten path just enough to feel the shadows and hear the whispers of a glimpse into a world where the past is never fully gone and the supernatural lingers just beyond sight. Walking the trails of Griffith Park after sunset is not for the faint of heart. Every snap of a twig, rustle of leaves, or distant whisper can stir the imagination or reveal the unseen. Whether the Headless Horseman is a figment of folklore or an enduring spectral presence, whether Mary's spirit truly roams the trails, or whether the shadows hiding among the trees are alive, one thing is certain: the park is haunted. It is a place where history, tragedy, and legend converge. leaving hikers with memories they will carry long after they have left the canyon behind. Mount Tamalpais, affectionately known as Mount Tam, towers over Marin County, offering panoramic views of the Bay Area, rolling hills, and the sparkling waters of the Pacific. By day, it is a paradise for hikers, photographers, and nature enthusiasts. But as the sun dips behind the peaks and the fog rolls in from the ocean, the mountain takes on a far more ominous personality. Hidden among its misty forests, jagged ridges, and quiet valleys are stories of tragedy, unexplained phenomena, and restless spirits, making Mount Tam not only a scenic wonder, but also one of California's most haunted natural landscapes. The history of the mountain is dotted with accidents and mysterious disappearances. Decades ago, small planes often flew over its peaks, attempting to navigate through thick fog or turbulent winds. Unfortunately, the mountain claimed its share of lives. Hikers and local residents recount tales of crash sites discovered long after the accidents, some still strewn with remnants of wreckage. But the most unsettling aspect is not the physical wreckage, it's what followed. Witnesses describe seeing ghostly lights flickering near the peaks at night, phantom aircraft shapes hovering silently above ridges, and occasional shadowy figures moving through the trees as if retracing the steps of those who perished. Hikers frequently report hearing phantom footsteps along the forest trails, even when they are completely alone. The sound is distinct, deliberate, and sometimes accompanied by whispers carried on the wind. Words that cannot be made out but seem unmistakably human. One experienced hiker described a path near the mountain's western ridge, where she felt the unmistakable pressure of being watched. The crunch of leaves and twigs behind her was rhythmic, methodical, and just close enough to spark terror. But whenever she turned, the trail was empty. Others report the same sensation, a cold presence brushing past, shadows glimpsed from the corner of an eye, and sudden chills that descend without warning. Apparitions are another frequent feature of Mount Tam's haunted lore. Many hikers have described fleeting figures among the trees, sometimes a man in old-fashioned clothing, sometimes a woman in flowing white, sometimes shadowy humanoid shapes that disappear when approached. One account comes from a group of campers who had set up near the east peak. As darkness fell, one of them noticed a figure standing at the edge of the clearing, illuminated faintly by the moonlight breaking through the fog. The figure didn't move, but exuded an almost tangible presence of grief and loss. When one camper approached, the figure simply dissolved into the mist, leaving a chilling silence in its wake. Fog plays a particularly sinister role on Mount Tam. It can appear suddenly, blanketing the trails, obscuring the surroundings, and amplifying every sound. Many hikers describe the fog as thick and almost sentient, shifting in ways that suggest movement among it. Voices sometimes carry strangely through it. Some interpret them as warnings, others as cries of those lost long ago. The dense forest amplifies these sounds, echoing them from tree to tree, creating the impression that the mountain itself is alive, aware of every intruder on its trails. Beyond apparitions and phantom sounds, some hikers have reported objects moving seemingly on their own. Rocks are displaced from the paths as if nudged by invisible hands, and backpacks occasionally feel lighter or heavier than they should. Campfires extinguish without reason, and lights from distant cities appear distorted, flickering and shifting unnaturally. These occurrences, combined with the mountain's natural hazards, steep drops, sudden weather changes, and dense underbrush, create an atmosphere that is simultaneously beautiful and terrifying. There are also numerous accounts of vehicles parked near trailheads being scratched or dented mysteriously after a hike. Some locals believe these incidents are connected to the spirits inhabiting the mountain, restless energies reacting to human presence. Others suggest that Mount Tam's dense electromagnetic fields, combined with fog and atmospheric conditions, contribute to optical and auditory hallucinations. Yet even skeptics admit that the consistency of reports across decades, from hikers to campers to park rangers, points to something beyond coincidence. One particularly chilling story comes from a solo hiker attempting the old East Peak Trail. After hours of climbing, He stopped to rest on a ridge and noticed a figure standing in the fog several hundred feet away. The figure was motionless, its head tilted slightly downward. When the hiker resumed walking, the figure appeared closer each time he glanced back, despite no visible movement. By the time he reached the next bend, the figure had vanished entirely, leaving only the oppressive weight of being watched and the echo of an unidentifiable whisper. He would later learn that the section of the trail he had just traversed was the site of a plane crash in the 1940s. Even today, Mount Tam continues to draw hikers not only for its vistas, but for its eerie reputation. Those who are sensitive to the paranormal report that the mountain's energy intensifies at night, in dense fog, or near historical sites like old observation points and abandoned service trails. Some say that the spirits are not malevolent, but are trapped by the trauma of their deaths, lingering in the spaces where their lives ended abruptly. Others feel the mountain carries a warning, reminder of nature's power, the fragility of human life, and the unseen forces that can follow tragedy. For those who venture onto Mount Tamalpais, caution and respect are as important as curiosity. Stick to marked trails, travel with companions, and be mindful of the weather and terrain. But if you linger quietly at dusk, you may sense it. The soft crunch of phantom footsteps, a sudden chill in the fog, or the fleeting image of a figure silhouetted against the mist. The mountain whispers stories of loss and mystery, and for those willing to listen, it offers a haunting reminder that beauty and terror often walk hand in hand. Mount Tamalpais is more than a hiking destination. It is a place where the past lingers in every shadow, where every gust of wind seems to carry a memory, and where hikers encounter the echoes of lives interrupted. Those who traverse its trails come away with stories, some chilling, some inexplicable, and all unforgettable. A testament to the haunted allure of this iconic California peak, Tenaya Canyon, carved deep into the granite heart of Yosemite National Park, is renowned for its breathtaking vistas, towering cliffs, and pristine waterfalls. By day, the canyon draws hikers eager to conquer its rugged terrain, photographers chasing sunlight across granite walls, and adventurers eager to explore its remote reaches. Yet, beneath its natural grandeur lies a darker story, a tale of tragedy, mystery, and an enduring curse that has haunted the canyon for centuries. According to Native American legend, Tenaya Canyon carries the weight of a terrible event that occurred long before the park became a destination for hikers. The story tells of a chief's son who met a tragic death within the canyon. Accounts differ. Some say he fell from a cliff while attempting to hunt or retrieve sacred herbs, while others claim he was lost in the labyrinthine canyons and never seen again. In grief and anger, the chief is said to have cursed the land, declaring that misfortune would follow anyone who trespassed into the canyon without respect. For generations, this story has been passed down among local tribes, becoming an enduring warning. The canyon is not only physically dangerous but spiritually restless. Modern visitors have reported experiences that echo the old legends. Hikers often describe a profound sense of being watched, even in areas where no one else is present. The canyon's towering walls create natural acoustics that can amplify sounds unnaturally, but many swear that the footsteps and whispers they hear do not belong to human companions. Some hikers have recounted hearing faint cries carried by the wind, voices that seem to emerge from the cliffs themselves, calling out in sorrow or warning. Others feel an oppressive presence pressing on their shoulders or standing just beyond sight, unseen yet unmistakably aware of their every move. Tenaya Canyon is notoriously treacherous. Its steep, narrow trails, loose rocks, and sudden drops pose a constant threat, and accidents are far from uncommon. Over the decades, hikers have slipped from granite slabs, become lost in the canyon's maze-like passages, or been swept away by sudden flash floods. Many of these incidents are shrouded in mystery, with some victims never recovered. Locals and park rangers alike note that while the terrain is undoubtedly challenging, the consistency of reports about disappearances, strange sensations, and eerie sounds cannot be entirely explained by nature alone. Visitors have also reported ghostly apparitions along the canyon's paths. One hiker described seeing a translucent figure standing near the edge of a cliff, backlit by the setting sun, seemingly gazing down into the abyss. When approached, the figure vanished, leaving only the sound of wind rushing through the canyon. Others have glimpsed shadows moving unnaturally along the granite walls, figures that appear to defy gravity or disappear when observers attempt to focus on them. Many say these manifestations are accompanied by a sense of sorrow or anger, as if the spirits within the canyon are reliving their own past tragedies or warning the living of imminent danger. Tenaya Canyon's silence contributes to its haunting reputation. Unlike other parts of Yosemite, where the sound of waterfalls or wildlife dominates, large sections of the canyon are eerily quiet. This stillness can be disorienting, heightening the senses and making every crack of a rock, rustle of a bush, or gust of wind feel amplified. Hikers report that in these silent stretches, the feeling of being observed is almost tangible. Some describe sudden drops in temperature or an invisible weight pressing down upon them, sensations that cannot be explained by altitude or weather alone. Several accounts describe sudden, inexplicable accidents that occur in areas previously deemed safe. Hikers have fallen on level paths, sprained ankles on minor rocks, or felt an unseen force push them from the trail's edge. Some theorists suggest that these occurrences are tied to the chief's ancient curse, an invisible force guiding misfortune toward those who disrespect the land. Others attribute them to the canyon's unpredictable microclimate, steep terrain, and natural hazards. Regardless of the explanation, the stories persist, reinforced by consistent reports over decades. One particularly chilling encounter involves a group of hikers who attempted to traverse the canyon late in the afternoon. As they ascended a narrow pass, one member felt a sudden, inexplicable pull backward, almost losing balance on a slick granite slab. Moments later, the group heard distant laughter, soft echoing, and impossibly close. Yet there was no one in sight. Shadows flickered across the cliffs, and a sense of dread filled the group so completely that they abandoned their hike, leaving the canyon as the sun disappeared behind the peaks. The hikers later confirmed that the trail section they had been on was historically associated with accidents and missing persons, deepening their unease. Even for those who respect the terrain and proceed with caution, the canyon maintains a subtle, persistent presence. Some hikers report seeing glowing eyes in the distance, fleeting glimpses of a figure among the rocks, or the sudden feeling of footsteps following them, though the trail remains empty. Others claim to hear whispers that grow louder when they pause, only to vanish when they move again. These phenomena are often accompanied by a sense of temporal dislocation, as if the canyon itself bends perception, blending past and present in unsettling ways. Tenaya Canyon is more than a hiking destination, it is a place where history, legend, and the natural world collide. The spirits of those lost, combined with the chief's ancient curse, create an atmosphere where caution and respect are paramount. Hikers who venture into the canyon are advised to stay on marked paths, travel in groups, and be prepared for sudden changes in terrain or weather. But for those willing to walk its trails attentively, the canyon offers more than physical challenge. It offers a glimpse into a realm where the past lingers, where grief and tragedy leave a mark, and where the natural beauty of Yosemite masks a dark and enduring mystery. The Dawn Mine Trail, tucked into the rugged foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains, is a destination that blends natural beauty with a dark, lingering history. By day, hikers are treated to winding paths shaded by oak and pine, glimpses of the city below, and the gentle murmur of streams cascading over rocks. But as the sun begins to dip behind the peaks and shadows stretch across the canyon, the trail takes on a more sinister character. The trail leads to the site of the Dawn Mine, an abandoned gold mine that operated during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. At its peak, the mine was a hub of activity, with men toiling deep within the earth, hauling ore, and navigating treacherous shafts. But the mine's history is tainted with tragedy. Accounts from historical records and local lore speak of accidents, disputes over claims, and the occasional murder born of greed. Many miners lost their lives in collapses, and some were said to vanish without a trace, leaving only the echo of their pickaxes reverberating through the tunnels. Visitors to the Dawn Mine Trail often report sensations that cannot be easily explained. Many speak of hearing the distant clink of tools striking rock, rhythmic and deliberate, even when no one else is nearby. Others hear whispers carried on the wind, voices that seem almost human but impossible to decipher. The canyon amplifies these sounds unnaturally, creating the impression that the spirits of the miners are still at work, toiling endlessly in the dark, forgotten shafts. The mine itself, now overgrown and partially collapsed, is a magnet for ghostly activity. Hikers who venture near the entrance often describe a sudden drop in temperature, a chill that seeps into their bones regardless of the day's warmth. Some claim to see shadowy figures moving in the tunnels or crouched along the jagged edges of the mine's opening. One hiker recounted standing near a fallen support beam and seeing the ghostly outline of a man in a miner's hat, pickaxe in hand, silently disappearing into the darkness. Others report glowing eyes in the tunnels, sometimes accompanied by the sound of a lantern swinging in the distance, as if someone or something is still guiding the way through the centuries-old shafts. Whispers are another recurring phenomenon. Hikers have described voices that seem to emerge from nowhere, low and urgent, warning them, or sometimes just repeating words in an indecipherable tongue. One visitor claimed the voices called out her name, urging her to leave the area immediately, though she was miles from any other human presence. Others report hearing laughter cold, hollow, and unexpected echoing from deep within the mine or the surrounding canyon walls. The combination of sounds, shadows, and sudden drops in temperature has led many to leave the trail with a profound sense of unease, feeling that they have been watched or followed. Even the path leading to the mine is said to be haunted. Hikers speak of sudden missteps on seemingly stable ground, disorientation in areas that should be familiar, and an overwhelming sense of being observed. Some claim to glimpse figures flitting between trees or standing silently on rocky outcroppings, only to vanish when approached. The natural dangers of the trail, loose rocks, steep inclines, and dense brush heighten the tension. But many witnesses insist that their fear is not solely due to terrain. There is something more, something that feels alive, connected to the history and the tragedies that occurred here. One particularly chilling account comes from a group of hikers exploring the mine during late afternoon. As they neared the entrance, they heard the unmistakable clang of metal striking rock. Assuming another group was inside, they called out, but there was no response. The sound continued intermittently, coming from deeper within the mine. When one hiker shone a flashlight into the darkness, he swore he saw several figures moving in the shadows, their faces obscured by hats and grime. Moments later, the sound stopped, and the figures vanished as if they had never existed. The hikers left hurriedly, shaken by the encounter and the overwhelming sensation of having intruded on a place that was not meant to be disturbed. Beyond sounds and apparitions, some visitors have experienced physical sensations, sudden chills, a feeling of pressure on the shoulders, and even light touches on the arm have been reported. Some interpret these as the spirits of the miners trapped in the tunnels, replaying their work and warning the living of the dangers. Others believe the land itself holds a memory, imprinted with the events of greed, toil, and tragedy that defined the mine's operation. Whatever the explanation, the Dawn Mine Trail continues to inspire both fascination and fear. Despite its haunted reputation, the trail remains popular, with hikers and adventurers seeking both scenic beauty and the thrill of the unknown. The combination of natural splendor and historical darkness makes the Dawn Mine Trail a unique experience, where visitors confront the echoes of the past in the form of whispers, shadows, and fleeting apparitions. Those who tread the path are advised to remain vigilant, respect the unstable terrain, and approach the mine with caution. For it is a place where history lingers, and the spirits of those who perished may still walk among the living. For those who venture into the Dawn Mine Trail, the experience is unforgettable. The rhythmic clatter of phantom pickaxes, the whispers in the wind, the cold presence in the tunnels all serve as reminders that this is more than a trail. It is a place where human ambition, greed, and tragedy have left a lasting mark. And in the quiet moments, when the canyon is still and the sun sets behind the peaks, one might sense that the spirits of the miners have not gone. They are simply waiting, still at work, echoing their lives and their stories to anyone who dares to listen. Dawn Mine Trail is not just a hiking destination. It is a corridor into the past, a place where the living and the spectral intersect, and where the echoes of those who worked, suffered, and died in the mine remain etched into the very stones of the San Gabriel Mountains. Tin Mine Canyon, tucked away in the hills near Corona, California, is a place where history and the supernatural intertwine. By day, the canyon draws hikers seeking adventure, wildlife, and a glimpse of the rugged beauty of Southern California. Steep cliffs, jagged rocks, and the remnants of old mining operations create a landscape that is both dramatic and desolate. But as the sun sinks and shadows deepen, Tin Mine Canyon transforms. The area's tragic past emerges from the silence, giving rise to eerie stories of ghostly miners, unexplained sounds, and the unsettling sensation that the canyon itself is alive and watching. The canyon's name comes from the tin mines that were active in the late 1800s and early 1900s. During this era, miners worked tirelessly in the harsh terrain, extracting ore from narrow shafts and crumbling tunnels. Life was dangerous, and accidents were frequent. Collapses, falls, and equipment failures claimed numerous lives, leaving behind both physical remnants of the mining era and the lingering imprint of sorrow and loss. Over time, as the mines fell into disuse, tales of tragedy transformed into stories of ghostly activity, with locals and hikers alike reporting supernatural encounters tied to the canyon's grim history. Visitors often speak of hearing phantom mining sounds, pickaxes striking rock, shovels scraping against walls, and the distant hum of machinery, even when no one else is around. These sounds are particularly pronounced near the old mine entrances and collapsed shafts. One hiker described pausing near a rusted ore cart and hearing a low rhythmic tapping echoing through the canyon. Thinking another hiker was nearby, he called out, but there was no response. The tapping continued for several minutes, moving closer and then fading into silence, as if the miners themselves were guiding him through the abandoned tunnels. In addition to the sounds, many hikers have reported hearing voices. Sometimes the voices are clear, calling out names or urging the living to leave. Other times, they are unintelligible whispers that carry a palpable sense of urgency. One group of campers described sitting near a makeshift fire when they began hearing faint voices calling from the nearby cliffs. The voices sounded human, but distorted, echoing as if bouncing off the canyon walls. When they shone flashlights toward the source, they saw only empty rocks and shadows. But the feeling of being observed never left them. The sense of being followed is another recurring theme in Tin Mine Canyon. Hikers describe the unnerving feeling that someone or something is tracking their movements, always just behind them or slightly out of sight. Footsteps echo in the underbrush, twigs snap in patterns that do not match the group's movement, and shadows flicker at the edge of vision. Several hikers have reported that, when they turn to confront the presence, there is nothing there, but the sense of being watched intensifies, accompanied by sudden chills and the impression of an unseen force pressing in on them. Abandoned structures scattered throughout the canyon amplify its haunted atmosphere. Old mine shafts, collapsed timber supports, and rusting carts create a landscape that feels frozen in time, steeped in the echoes of human toil and suffering. One hiker recounted exploring a particularly narrow shaft when a shadowy figure seemed to emerge from the darkness ahead. It was tall, humanoid, and moved with deliberate slowness, yet it vanished as quickly as it appeared. The hiker later learned that this section of the canyon had been the site of a mine collapse decades earlier, and he wondered if he had glimpsed one of the miners who had perished there. Even the natural features of the canyon contribute to its eerie reputation. The steep cliffs and winding paths can disorient hikers, and sudden changes in light and shadow create the illusion of movement. Fog often drifts through the canyon in the early morning or late evening, adding to the sense of isolation and mystery. Many visitors report that the combination of natural hazards and paranormal activity creates a feeling of vulnerability, as if the canyon is testing those who dare to traverse it. One particularly unsettling story involves a solo hiker exploring the canyon near sunset. As he followed a narrow trail along the cliffside, he heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps behind him. When he stopped and turned, there was nothing, just the jagged rocks and scrubby vegetation. Moments later, he saw a faint glow emanating from the entrance of an old mine shaft. Curiosity drew him closer, and he heard what sounded like a conversation. Muffled voices speaking urgently, followed by the clanging of metal. When he shone a flashlight into the mine, the voices stopped abruptly, and the glow vanished. The hiker left immediately, shaken by the encounter and the undeniable sense that the canyon itself had observed him. Many who explore Tin Mine Canyon report that the paranormal activity is strongest near the old mines, and in the late afternoon or evening, shadows appear to move with a life of their own. Whispers ride the wind through the canyon, and phantom equipment sounds echo across cliffs that have been silent for decades. Some believe the spirits of miners remain bound to the canyon, replaying their labor and tragedy endlessly. Others feel that the canyon itself holds a memory, a residue of the lives lost and the greed and desperation that defined the mining era. Despite its haunted reputation, Tin Mine Canyon remains a destination for hikers, adventurers, and those seeking the thrill of encountering the unknown. The combination of scenic beauty, historical intrigue, and paranormal legend makes the trail unforgettable. Visitors are advised to respect the terrain, avoid venturing into unstable shafts, and travel with companions. But for those willing to listen carefully, the canyon offers more than just a physical challenge. It offers a glimpse into a world where the past is never truly gone, and the echoes of miners lost to time linger, waiting to be heard. Paramount Ranch, nestled in the hills of Agoura, California, was once a vibrant movie set, known for its iconic western town, used in countless films and television shows. Wooden storefronts, dusty streets, and rustic saloons created a perfect backdrop for tales of the Old West. But behind the glamour of Hollywood storytelling lies a darker history. Fires, accidents, and the passage of time have transformed the ranch into a place where the past seems unwilling to let go. Today, visitors report encounters that are as chilling as they are mysterious. And many believe Paramount Ranch has become one of California's most haunted locations. The ranch's decline began long before it was reduced to ruins by devastating wildfires, accidents on set, minor injuries, and even reports of inexplicable occurrences were whispered among crew members. Some claimed to hear the sound of footsteps echoing across empty streets, or doors creaking open when no one was nearby. Props and furniture would occasionally move, lights would flicker, and shadows would appear in corners where no person was standing. These early reports laid the groundwork for a reputation that only deepened after the devastating fires. In 2018, the Woolsey fires swept through the region, destroying most of the western town set. Charred timbers, burned facades, and blackened earth replaced the lively streets, leaving behind a skeletal reminder of what once stood. Yet even in ruin, the ranch did not become silent. Visitors exploring the remains report an unnerving presence. Many have described seeing figures in period clothing wandering among the ruined cowboys with hats tipped low, women in long dresses, and children darting through the empty streets. These apparitions appear briefly, often disappearing when approached, leaving only the sensation of having been observed. Sounds are another commonly reported phenomenon. Hikers and visitors recount hearing the clip-clop of phantom horse hooves across the burned ground, the creak of wagon wheels on gravel, and the murmur of voices discussing tasks from long ago. One visitor, walking along the remnants of Main Street, claimed to hear a faint piano playing inside what remained of a saloon, though the building was reduced to a roofless shell. Others report the soft laughter of children, running and playing among the ruins, fading into the still air as quickly as it appears. These sounds create the impression that the ranch is replaying scenes from its storied past, a haunting loop of life before tragedy struck. Temperature anomalies also play a role in the ranch's eerie atmosphere. Many visitors speak of sudden, inexplicable drops in temperature, even on hot, sunny days. The cold is often localized, surrounding a single street corner, a scorched building, or the ruins of a saloon. Hikers report goosebumps, shivers, and the overwhelming sensation of being watched during these moments. Some have claimed that these cold spots are accompanied by a pressure in the chest, an invisible weight that seems to press down upon them as though the spirits of the past are physically present. Visual phenomena are frequent. Shadows flicker across the ruins, often in shapes that resemble human figures or animals, appearing like lanterns or campfires long extinguished. These apparitions, though fleeting, leave a lasting impression, making it clear that the history of Paramount Ranch is far from forgotten. One particularly chilling account comes from a couple who visited shortly after the fire. As they wandered through the ruins, they noticed a figure standing in the distance, framed by the skeletal remains of a storefront. The figure was tall, dressed in a long coat and cowboy hat, and seemed to be observing them. When they attempted to approach, the figure vanished into thin air, leaving the couple shaken and convinced that the ranch held lingering residents from its past. Other visitors have reported similar encounters, figures appearing briefly, always dressed in period attire, and always vanishing when noticed. The ranch is also linked to a sense of residual energy, tied to the tragedies that occurred there. Beyond the fire, accidents on set, and decades of human activity have left an imprint on the land. Visitors report a feeling of sadness or tension in certain areas, as if the ruins themselves carry the memory of past struggles. This energy is often strongest at dawn or dusk, when long shadows stretch across the scorched streets and the ruins take on an otherworldly appearance. Hikers describe an overwhelming sense of history pressing in, a reminder that this was once a place of life, laughter, and labor, now haunted by its own story. Even those who enter the ranch skeptically often leave unnerved. The combination of burned remnants, unexplained sounds, and fleeting apparitions creates an atmosphere that is difficult to dismiss. Many hikers and paranormal enthusiasts return repeatedly, drawn not only by curiosity, but by the undeniable sense that Paramount Ranch is more than just a collection of ruins. It is a place where the past and present collide, where the echoes of life before the fire continue to play out in subtle, haunting ways. For those who explore the site, caution and respect are essential. The ruins are structurally unstable, and the terrain is rugged. But the warnings of the past seem to extend beyond physical danger. Visitors are advised to tread lightly, observe quietly, and be prepared for the unexpected. Those who do may find themselves witness to moments that feel suspended between worlds, a whisper, a shadow, the faint sound of hooves, or the sudden chill that signals the presence of something unseen. Paramount Ranch is more than a hiking destination or historical site. It is a portal into another time, a place where the line between the living and the spectral blurs. The burned buildings, scorched streets, and ghostly whispers all serve as reminders that while the fire may have claimed the physical structures, it could not erase the lives, memories, and spirits that remain. Those who wander among the ruins come away with more than photographs. They carry the feeling that the ranch is still alive in a different sense, a living memory of the people, stories, and mysteries that shaped its haunted legacy. Car Wreck Trail, nestled deep in the San Bernardino Mountains, is a destination that draws hikers with its rugged terrain, dense forests, and the promise of uncovering history. But this trail is more than a physical challenge. It carries a story that has haunted the area for decades. At its end lies the remnants of a car wreck from the 1940s, a scene frozen in time that continues to capture the imagination and the fear of those who venture here. The wreck is not just a reminder of human mortality. It is said to be a locus of lingering spirits, strange sounds, and a heavy, unshakable sadness that settles over the trail. The legend begins with a tragic story from the 1940s. A young woman was driving along the mountain roads when her car went off the edge, plunging down a steep embankment. Some accounts suggest she was fleeing a personal crisis, while others hint at more mysterious circumstances. When locals arrived to investigate, they found the wreckage and, tragically, her lifeless body. The car was left where it landed, overgrown by brush and hidden from casual view. But the story of her death remained alive in whispers and warnings among those familiar with the trail. Over the years, hikers and adventurers have reported phenomena that defy explanation. The most common sightings involve a ghostly woman appearing near the wreck. Witnesses describe her as dressed in period clothing, often looking disoriented or sorrowful. Some have seen her standing beside the twisted metal of the car, staring into the distance, as if waiting for someone who will never return. Others have glimpsed her moving through the trees, her figure translucent, vanishing when approached, leaving behind only the sound of rustling leaves or the soft creak of metal. Sounds play a significant role in the trail's eerie reputation. Hikers often report hearing a car engine start unexpectedly, the low rumble echoing through the canyon. Some have described the engine revving, doors slamming, or tires skidding on gravel, even when no vehicle is present. These noises are particularly intense at dusk, when the forest is quiet, and the mountains seem to amplify even the faintest sound. One hiker recounted pausing near the wreck and hearing the unmistakable sound of a car horn, followed by a scream, only to find the area empty when he turned to investigate. The sense of presence is another haunting element. Visitors frequently speak of an overwhelming feeling of sadness or grief near the wreck. Some feel as though a weight presses on their shoulders, or that invisible eyes are watching their every move. Even those who do not see the ghostly figure report chills running down their spine, a sudden feeling of cold air in the warm mountain sun, or a compulsion to leave the area immediately. The emotions are so strong that they linger long after hikers have descended the trail, coloring their memories of the hike with unease. Physical traces of the past further add to the atmosphere. The car itself, now rusted and partially buried, serves as a visual reminder of the tragedy. The twisted metal, shattered glass, and remnants of tires create a scene that is both macabre and strangely beautiful. Some visitors have noted footprints in the dirt nearby, though. The trail is remote and seldom traveled, appearing and disappearing without explanation. Others have found personal items, small trinkets, or objects left near the wreck, as if previous visitors had participated in a quiet, ongoing ritual of remembrance or appeasement. One particularly chilling account comes from a solo hiker who visited the wreck late in the afternoon. As he approached the site, he heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps crunching leaves behind him. When he turned, there was no one there. He continued forward, drawn by curiosity, and glimpsed the translucent figure of a young woman standing next to the car. She raised her hand as if to wave, but when he stepped closer, she dissolved into the air like mist. Moments later, he heard the distant sound of a car engine revving, though he had not seen a road nearby. Terrified, he left the trail quickly, feeling the weight of grief and presence pressing down on him the entire way. The trail itself is isolated and challenging, winding through steep inclines, dense pine forests, and rocky outcroppings. Its remoteness enhances the sense of unease. There are few people on the path, and cell phone service is minimal, leaving hikers vulnerable and alone. Many report that the isolation intensifies the paranormal activity, making every rustle of leaves, every creak of a branch, or distant sound feel magnified. The combination of natural danger and supernatural legend gives Car Wreck Trail an enduring reputation as one of the most haunted hiking destinations in Southern California. Visitors are advised to exercise caution. The trail is steep in places, with loose rocks and narrow pathways. Beyond the physical hazards, hikers are warned to respect the area, approach the wreck with mindfulness, and be prepared for encounters that may challenge their perception of reality. The trail is not only a test of endurance, but a confrontation with history, tragedy, and the unexplained. Car Wreck Trail is more than a hiking destination. It is a portal into the past, where a single tragic event has left an indelible mark on the landscape. The ghostly figure of the young woman, the sounds of a phantom car, and the heavy sadness that pervades the area serve as reminders that some stories do not end with death. They linger, echoing through the mountains, visible to those who dare to notice, audible to those who dare to listen, and felt by anyone sensitive enough to the emotions left behind. For hikers willing to tread carefully, Car Wreck Trail offers a haunting, unforgettable experience. It is a place where nature, history, and the supernatural intersect, a reminder that the past is never truly gone, and that in the mountains of the San Bernardino Range, some spirits may never leave. Griffith Park, sprawling over more than 4,000 acres in the heart of Los Angeles, is widely known for its hiking trails, panoramic views of the city, and the iconic Griffith Observatory. But beyond its natural beauty and recreational allure, the park harbors a darker, more tragic history. Among its winding paths, dense forests, and hidden clearings, many visitors have reported experiences that defy explanation. The most enduring legend is that of Peg Entwistle, a young actress whose life ended in heartbreak and despair when she jumped from the Hollywood sign in 1932. Over the decades, hikers, joggers, and parkgoers have claimed encounters with a spectral presence, mysterious fragrances, and an unsettling energy that lingers long after sunset. Peg Entwistle's story is central to the park's haunting reputation. A promising actress from England, she came to Hollywood with dreams of stardom, but quickly became disillusioned by the harsh realities of the film industry. In a moment of despair, she climbed to the letter H on the Hollywood sign and leaped to her death. The tragedy shocked the public, and her name became synonymous with lost dreams and the cruel side of Hollywood's glamour. Yet, according to legend, her spirit never left the city or Griffith Park. Hikers in Griffith Park have reported seeing a woman in 1930s attire, walking along the trails or standing silently near the base of the Hollywood sign. She is often described as petite, dressed in a simple dress, her hair styled in the fashion of the era. Some witnesses claim that she appears distressed, gazing upwards as if longing for something unreachable, while others describe her looking directly at them, her expression a mix of sadness and longing. When approached, she vanishes, leaving the hiker alone with an unsettling sense that they had been watched or silently judged. The sightings are often accompanied by other unexplained phenomena. Many visitors report sudden chills that descend inexplicably, as if a cold wind has swept through their body even on warm days. Some have heard the soft sound of footsteps behind them on empty trails, only to turn and find no one there. Others report hearing faint sobs or whispers carried by the wind, delicate yet piercing, often leaving hikers uneasy and glancing nervously at the surrounding trees. Fragrance is another striking element of the park's paranormal activity. Peg Entwistle was said to favor gardenias, and several visitors have reported catching the sudden, sweet scent of the flower in areas where no blooms exist. One hiker recounted pausing on a quiet path when a gentle, floral perfume filled the air, so vivid that it seemed to come from nowhere. Moments later, a figure in period clothing was glimpsed at the edge of the clearing, watching silently before disappearing into the trees. The combination of sight, sound, and scent creates a powerful impression, leaving witnesses convinced of the presence of a restless spirit. The park's landscape enhances its haunting allure. Its dense forests, hidden ravines, and rugged hillsides can make the trails feel isolated, even in daylight. Long shadows stretch across the ground, creating shifting shapes that can play tricks on the eyes. During foggy mornings or at dusk, visibility decreases, adding to the sense of unease. Even the familiar can become unsettling. Paths that seem straightforward may twist unexpectedly, and distant sounds echo unnaturally in the hills, giving the impression of unseen movement just beyond view. Many paranormal enthusiasts have documented their experiences in Griffith Park, and some reports include photography. Some hikers claim to have captured fleeting, misty shapes or figures that appear humanoid, standing silently among the trees. Others have photographed shadowy outlines near trail junctions where no other person was present. While skeptics often attribute these phenomena to trickery or coincidence, The sheer volume of consistent reports over decades lends weight to the legend of Peg Entwistle's restless presence. One particularly chilling account comes from a late afternoon jogger near the Ferndale area. As she ran along a shaded trail, she felt a sudden icy breeze despite the sun still shining overhead. Hearing footsteps behind her, she turned and saw a young woman in a 1930s dress walking along the path. The woman did not run or speak, but looked at her with an expression of profound sadness. When the jogger blinked, the figure was gone, leaving only the scent of gardenias lingering in the warm afternoon air. The experience haunted her for weeks, and she returned to the park only during daylight hours, always wary of the empty trails. Beyond Peg Entwistle, Griffith Park has a broader history that contributes to its paranormal reputation. Native American legends, historic settlements, and early Los Angeles pioneers have all left traces of their stories in the landscape. Some hikers report glimpses of shadowy figures near old ruins or hear the echo of voices in areas where no buildings or people exist. The combination of personal tragedy, historical significance, and dense wilderness creates an environment ripe for ghost stories and unexplained encounters. Despite or perhaps because of its haunted reputation, Griffith Park continues to draw visitors, from casual hikers to paranormal investigators. The thrill of walking the same paths where Peg Entwistle is said to linger, feeling the echo of her sorrow and the whispers of history, creates a unique and unforgettable experience. For those sensitive to the supernatural, the park offers an encounter with the past that is vivid and deeply affecting. Griffith Park is more than just a hiking destination or recreational area. It is a place where history, tragedy, and legend converge. The figure of Peg Entwistle, the sudden chills, the whispers, and the scent of gardenias all serve as reminders that some stories never truly end. They linger in the trees, echo through the hills, and watch silently from the shadows. Hikers who venture into Griffith Park may come seeking fresh air and exercise, but those attuned to the unseen often leave with an indelible sense that the park is alive with the memory of a tragic soul, forever tied to the Hollywood Hills she loved and ultimately left behind. Bothan Youth Camp, nestled in the lush hills of Marin County near Fairfax, California, appears at first glance to be an idyllic retreat. Children laugh along the trails, counselors guide activities, and the cabins are filled with the vibrant energy of summer. Yet beneath this cheerful surface lies a shadowy past that continues to cast its presence over the campgrounds. Before becoming a Girl Scout camp, the site was home to the Bothan Tuberculosis Sanatorium, a place where patients sought treatment for the often fatal disease. The sanatorium was active in the early to mid-20th century, and its history is marked by suffering, isolation, and loss. Today, many visitors and campers report experiences that suggest the spirits of the past remain, lingering in the forests and cabins, quietly observing the living. The first reports often involve sounds. Campers and staff alike have described hearing children's laughter echoing through empty cabins or along secluded trails. Sometimes the laughter is joyful, other times eerie, carrying a tone of sadness that chills the spine. One counselor recounted walking to the mess hall before dawn, when she heard the unmistakable sound of running feet and playful voices coming from the open fields, only to find that no one was there. She later learned that these sounds often coincide with areas where TB patients once spent their days outside, recovering or passing away in the sanatorium's care. Apparitions are another recurring phenomenon. Visitors have described ghostly figures of nurses dressed in early 20th century uniforms, moving through the cabins and hallways as though tending to unseen patients. Some have seen patients themselves, appearing pale and fragile, wandering the grounds or standing silently near the edge of the forest. These figures often vanish when approached, leaving only the lingering impression of someone watching or the faint scent of antiseptic and old linens. The apparitions are most commonly reported during the early morning or late evening, when shadows stretch across the campgrounds and the air grows quiet and still. Cold spots and sudden drops in temperature add to the camp's unsettling atmosphere, Walkers on the trails often report moments where a warm summer day turns inexplicably frigid in localized areas. Hikers and campers describe goosebumps, shivers, and the feeling of invisible eyes upon them. One teenager exploring the outskirts of the camp near the creek felt a chill so sudden and intense that she swore someone was standing directly behind her. When she spun around, the area was empty, but the sensation of being watched lingered, heavy and unnerving. Some campers have reported more interactive experiences, though subtle. Doors have been found open or closed without explanation. Lights flicker, and personal items occasionally move or vanish. A counselor shared a story of preparing the cabin for an evening activity when she saw a faint, translucent figure of a nurse adjusting a chair and straightening a blanket before disappearing into the corner. These small occurrences reinforce the sense that the camp is not empty, that those who once lived and worked here continue their routines in some spectral form. Bothan youth camps, forested trails contribute to its haunting allure. Towering redwoods, thick underbrush, and winding paths create an environment where sound carries strangely, and shadows play tricks on the eye. Fog or mist can settle over the camp in the mornings and evenings, blurring the line between reality and imagination. Visitors report the sensation of being followed along these trails, glimpsing movement among the trees that disappears when directly observed. The isolation and natural beauty of the area amplify the feelings of both wonder and unease, creating an experience that is simultaneously enchanting and eerie. One particularly chilling encounter comes from a group of scouts on an overnight camping trip. As they sat around a campfire, telling stories, several reported seeing a faint figure in a nurse's uniform moving near the cabin's edge. At the same time, some of the children claimed they heard other voices joining in their conversation, whispering words they could not understand. When the camp director investigated with a flashlight, nothing was there, yet the children insisted that someone or something had been observing them. The air remained cold for hours, long after the campfire's warmth should have dissipated the chill. Another story involves a hiker walking along a trail near the sanatorium's old recreational area. She suddenly heard the sound of a ball bouncing and children calling out names. Following the sounds, she reached a small clearing but found it completely empty. Yet impressions of small footprints appeared in the dirt, as if children had run across the path moments before. Locals and guides suggest these events could be the echoes of past lives, imprints of those who spent their days here decades ago, forever tied to the land. The blend of history, tragedy, and lingering energy makes Bothan Youth Camp a place where the past and present collide, while the Girl Scouts and visitors enjoy its natural beauty and recreational opportunities. The forest, cabins, and trails hold memories that are difficult to shake. Ghost stories, whispered encounters, and sensations of unseen observers are part of the camp's identity, woven into its fabric by decades of human experience, illness, and care. Bothan Youth Camp is not only a site for outdoor activities, but also a testament to the enduring presence of history. The laughter that echoes through the trees, the spectral figures in period attire, and the cold spots that appear without warning all remind visitors that some places carry the memory of those who once walked them. Those willing to listen closely and tread respectfully may feel the whispers of the past, the invisible footsteps of long-gone children, and the watchful eyes of nurses who never truly left. The camp serves as a reminder that even in a place filled with life and joy, the shadows of history can remain quietly observing, and occasionally making themselves known to those who dare to notice. Niles Canyon, winding through the hills of Fremont, California, is celebrated for its scenic beauty. Historic railroad tracks and tranquil waters that reflect the surrounding cliffs. By day, it is a serene escape for hikers, cyclists, and drivers seeking a picturesque journey. Yet beneath the charm of the canyon lies a legend that has haunted the area for decades. Locals and travelers alike tell of the ghost of a young woman who died tragically in a car accident, a spirit that roams the winding roads as a vanishing hitchhiker, appearing to drivers in need of a lift, only to vanish before reaching safety. The story begins decades ago, when a young woman was traveling through the canyon at night, Curves in the road, limited lighting, and the sheer cliffs lining the roadway made it a perilous route. According to accounts, she lost control of her car on a sharp bend, sending it tumbling down the slope to her death. Though emergency responders recovered her body, some say her spirit never truly left the canyon. Since that tragic night, sightings of a ghostly figure in white, sometimes waving for help at the edge of the road, have persisted, earning Niles Canyon a reputation as a haunted stretch of highway. Drivers report encounters that are chillingly consistent. Many describe seeing a young woman standing along the roadside, often appearing startled, drenched from rain, or clutching her coat tightly. Her appearance is usually illuminated by the headlights of a passing car, revealing her pale skin and sorrowful expression. When drivers stop to offer assistance, she accepts the ride, climbing into the vehicle silently. However, before reaching any destination, she disappears, leaving the driver alone in the car, often with a lingering sense of unease or cold shivers down the spine. One particularly striking account came from a couple driving home late at night. As they navigated a particularly sharp bend, they saw a young woman standing by the shoulder, seemingly seeking help. Concerned, they pulled over, and she climbed into the back seat without a word. For the next few miles, she remained silent, staring out the window. When they reached a clearing near an old bridge, she had vanished. The couple swore the seatbelt in her section had not been unfastened, and the back doors had not been opened. They drove the rest of the canyon in tense silence, unable to explain the encounter. The sightings are not limited to the road itself. Hikers and cyclists have also reported fleeting glimpses of a figure moving along the canyon's trails or across the historic railroad tracks. Some claim to have seen a shadowy woman walking beside abandoned train cars or crossing small bridges over the creek, only to disappear into the undergrowth. Others hear sudden footsteps behind them, accompanied by a faint rustling or the sensation of being followed, even when the trail is empty. These experiences reinforce the canyon's eerie reputation and suggest that the spirit is not confined solely to the roads. Local lore often emphasizes the emotional weight of the ghost. Witnesses describe an overwhelming sense of sadness or loss when encountering the figure. Drivers report that the air inside the car grows cold and heavy, as though mourning the untimely death of the young woman. Some have described feeling an invisible hand brush against their arm or the sensation of a presence leaning close, only to find no one there upon inspection. These experiences leave a lasting impression, haunting those who encounter her for weeks or months afterward. The geography of Niles Canyon contributes to its haunting allure. Its narrow, winding roads and steep cliffs create a natural sense of tension, especially at night. Mist often rolls in from the creek, obscuring vision and creating an otherworldly atmosphere. The winding curves, sharp bends, and dense foliage make it easy for the imagination to take over. But even the most skeptical visitors find that the reports are disturbingly consistent across decades. Multiple generations of drivers and hikers have shared similar experiences, reinforcing the legend of the vanishing hitchhiker. One story tells of a long-distance trucker who encountered the young woman near a particularly treacherous curve. She appeared drenched from rain, her clothes sticking to her form. He stopped and offered a ride. As he carefully drove around bends and through the mist, she remained silent, staring straight ahead. When he turned to ask a question, she had disappeared, leaving behind only the faint scent of perfume, a floral note that seemed out of place in the damp, musty air of the canyon. The driver reported feeling an unshakable sadness for the remainder of his journey, convinced he had witnessed something far beyond the ordinary. The vanishing hitchhiker is a phenomenon not unique to Niles Canyon, yet this location's combination of history, topography, and repeated eyewitness accounts has cemented its place as one of California's haunted highways. The young woman's spirit is often interpreted as trapped, forever replaying the night of her death, unable to move on. Some believe she seeks to warn travelers of the canyon's dangers, while others see her as a lingering echo of grief and tragedy, an imprint left on the landscape itself. Despite the haunting stories, Niles Canyon remains a popular destination. Hikers, cyclists, and drivers are drawn not only by its natural beauty, but also by the allure of encountering the mysterious hitchhiker. Those who come seeking adventure or history may also find themselves face to face with a fragment of the past, a spectral presence that refuses to be ignored. Visitors are advised to drive carefully, respect the area, and remain aware of their surroundings, not only for safety, but because some legends carry a truth that cannot be fully explained. Niles Canyon is more than just a scenic route through the hills of Fremont. It is a place where history, tragedy, and legend converge. The ghost of the young woman serves as a reminder that some lives leave a mark on the world beyond death. Lingering in the fog, the shadows, and the winding roads, hikers and drivers who encounter her carry with them a story they will never forget, a story of sorrow, mystery, and the haunting power of a single, tragic moment, frozen in time. Point Sur Lighthouse rises dramatically from the jagged cliffs of Big Sur, California. Perched on a rocky promontory that juts into the Pacific Ocean. Built in 1889, the lighthouse was a critical navigational aid along one of the most treacherous stretches of the California coastline, where dense fog, crashing waves, and jagged rocks claimed the lives of countless sailors. Over the years, the lighthouse has witnessed tragedy, hardship, and loss. And many believe that the spirits of those who perished at sea and the keepers who tended the light still linger among the rocks and fog. Visitors report a variety of supernatural phenomena, from disembodied footsteps echoing through the lantern room to the mournful wail of a foghorn in moments of perfect stillness. The lighthouse's most well-known hauntings involve apparitions of former keepers. During its operational years, lighthouse keepers worked in isolation, tending the light through storms, fog, and relentless coastal winds. They were responsible not only for maintaining the beacon, but also for the safety of ships navigating the dangerous waters below. Many of these men died while performing their duties or succumbed to illness and exhaustion. Today, visitors claim to see tall, shadowy figures moving along the cliffs or within the lighthouse itself, often dressed in 19th or early 20th century attire. Some have reported glimpsing a keeper inspecting the lantern, only for him to vanish when approached, leaving behind the faint scent of smoke or the metallic temps of seawater. The foghorn is another element that adds to Point Sur's eerie atmosphere. Even on calm days, when no fog is present, hikers and visitors have reported hearing the deep, mournful blast of the foghorn echoing across the cliffs and waves. Some say it occurs precisely at times when the lighthouse would have been in use, as if a spectral signal to warn ships that were never in sight. In several accounts, the sound has startled visitors so profoundly that they fled the area, only to find the cliffs silent moments later. These phantom sounds are often accompanied by a chill in the air, even on warm, sunny days, as if the lighthouse itself is exhaling a memory of the past. Many of the hauntings are connected to the shipwrecks that occurred along the Big Sur coast. The waters near Point Sur have long been notorious for their danger, with jagged reefs and sudden storms creating deadly conditions for sailors. Witnesses describe seeing ghostly ships appearing offshore in the fog, their masts and sails semi-transparent, rocking on the waves as though trapped between worlds. On several occasions, visitors have reported the cries of sailors carried on the wind, mixed with the roar of the surf, a tragic chorus of lives lost to the unforgiving sea. Inside the lighthouse, strange occurrences continue to unsettle guests and volunteers. The narrow staircases leading to the lantern room are said to creak and groan under phantom footsteps. Doors open and close without explanation, and lights flicker despite functioning electrical systems. One caretaker recounted ascending the stairs late at night, only to feel the sensation of someone walking behind him. When he turned, the space was empty, but the chill of the encounter lingered, and the faint outline of a tall figure seemed to shimmer briefly in the corner of his vision. Visitors often report an overwhelming sense of dread while exploring the surrounding cliffs. The isolated location, with the Pacific crashing against the rocks below, creates an atmosphere of vulnerability. Even experienced hikers have described moments where the cliffs feel alive, as if unseen eyes are watching every step. Some have reported sudden gusts of wind that push against them in narrow passageways, while others feel invisible hands brushing past them or hear whispered warnings in the roar of the surf. The combination of isolation, natural danger, and historical tragedy makes Point Sur Lighthouse a unique and chilling site for paranormal activity. One memorable account comes from a group of tourists visiting during a foggy evening. As they explored the lighthouse and the adjacent cliffs, one woman felt a tap on her shoulder. Turning, she saw a man in a long coat and old-fashioned hat standing silently beside her. Before she could speak, he vanished, leaving only the sound of the foghorn echoing through the mist. Later, as they descended the trail, the group noticed that the air had grown inexplicably cold, and a faint, salty odor lingered, reminiscent of a stormy sea. The experience left them shaken, convinced that the lighthouse retained the presence of those who once lived and worked there. The isolation of Point Sur Lighthouse amplifies its spectral reputation. Access is limited, and the surrounding terrain is rugged, creating natural barriers that separate the lighthouse from modern life. Hikers and visitors often feel cut off from the world, surrounded by fog and crashing waves, with only the history of the lighthouse and the stories of its past inhabitants. For company, in such a setting, the line between reality and the supernatural can feel thin, and many claim that the spirits of the lighthouse and the sailors who perished there are impossible to ignore. Point Sur Lighthouse continues to be a destination for those interested in history, nature, and the paranormal. The stories of ghostly keepers, phantom foghorns, and spectral sailors create a sense of living history, where tragedy and memory remain intertwined with the physical landscape. Visitors leave with more than just photographs and memories of scenic beauty. They carry the lingering sense of a place where the past is never fully gone, where the wind whispers stories, and where unseen eyes continue to watch from the cliffs. For those willing to explore, Point Sur Lighthouse offers a haunting and unforgettable experience. It is a reminder that the coast holds secrets, the cliffs remember the lost, and the fog can carry voices from a time long past. The lighthouse stands as a sentinel not just for ships, but for the countless spirits who call this rocky promontory home, eternally bound to the rugged, unforgiving Big Sur coastline. Bodie State Historic Park, located in the eastern Sierra Nevada of California, is one of the most evocative remnants of the gold rush era. Once a thriving town filled with miners, merchants, and families seeking fortune, Bodie has long since been abandoned. Today, its streets are silent, its buildings stand frozen in time, and its wooden structures creak with the weight of history. Despite its quiet, visitors and historians alike report that Bodie is far from empty. Over the years, countless accounts of ghostly activity have emerged, suggesting that the town's past inhabitants still linger, unable to leave the town that defined their lives. During its heyday in the late 1800s, Bodie was a bustling hub, home to thousands of residents. Saloons echoed with laughter, general stores were packed with miners, and children's voices filled the dusty streets. But as the gold veins dwindled, the town's population declined, leaving homes, schools, and businesses to the elements. Today, the town is remarkably well preserved, maintained by the California State Park System, allowing visitors to walk through the original buildings, glimpse period artifacts, and feel a direct connection to the past. Yet this connection is not always comforting. Many who explore Bodie report a palpable sense of being watched, strange noises, and fleeting glimpses of figures dressed in old-fashioned attire. Sightings are perhaps the most common phenomenon reported. Visitors describe seeing men in dusty miner clothing or women in long dresses walking through the streets, seemingly unaware of the present day. These figures are often spotted near saloons, general stores, or homes, pausing as if engaged in daily activities before vanishing when approached. Some have reported seeing children playing in the streets, chasing each other around the abandoned wagons and old storefronts, only to disappear behind the crumbling walls. These apparitions are always described as slightly translucent, fading into the air as if Bodie itself refuses to let go of its past. Sounds are another frequent occurrence. The creaking of floorboards, the jingle of keys, the muffled laughter of children, and the faint strains of piano music have all been reported by visitors. One hiker recounted walking past the old schoolhouse when she heard the unmistakable sound of children reciting lessons, their voices echoing through the empty building. When she entered, the schoolhouse was completely deserted, yet the sensation of tiny footsteps running along the wooden floors remained. Others have reported the sound of a saloon piano playing late at night, or the clang of tools from the blacksmith's shop, long after the town has been empty. Cold spots and sudden shifts in temperature are also frequently noted. Walking through Bodie on sunny days, visitors sometimes feel sudden chills, especially near certain buildings, as though the air itself remembers the town's past. One camper reported standing near the old church when a cold wind swept through the area, brushing past her as if invisible hands were passing by. Moments later, the wind ceased, leaving her with the uneasy feeling that she had been observed. These sensations often accompany sightings or unexplained sounds, creating a cumulative effect that leaves many with a lingering sense of unease. Some of Bodie's most chilling tales involve direct interaction with the spirits of its former residents. One visitor described seeing a figure in minor-esque clothing leaning over the counter of the old general store. When she entered the building, the figure vanished, but she noticed items on the counter had shifted slightly, as if the apparition had interacted with them. Another account tells of a man exploring the old hotel when he felt a tap on his shoulder. Turning around, he saw a young woman in a long dress, her face pale and sorrowful. She disappeared as he blinked, leaving only a faint perfume in the air and an indelible sense of sadness. The town's layout itself contributes to the haunted atmosphere. Narrow streets, decaying wooden sidewalks, and deserted homes create a sense of isolation and timelessness. The wind whistles through the broken windows and across the empty streets, creating eerie sounds that can mimic voices or footsteps. Fog and dust often roll through the town, distorting shapes and lending the landscape an otherworldly quality. Even during the day, when tourists are present, Bodie has a way of feeling suspended between the past and present, as if time has bent to preserve the echoes of those who once lived there. Visitors have reported seeing orbs of light, misty figures, or shadowy silhouettes in photos where nothing unusual was visible to the naked eye. Some paranormal investigators suggest these phenomena are residual energy from the town's inhabitants, while skeptics attribute them to lighting, reflections, or dust. Yet the number of consistent eyewitness accounts suggest that something lingers within Bodie's streets and buildings, watching silently from corners, doorways, and empty rooms. Bodie's ghostly reputation is not limited to its residents. Visitors frequently report an overwhelming feeling of sorrow or loss that seems to hang in the air, as if the town itself mourns the lives that pass through it. Longtime park rangers and guides have come to accept the presence of spirits as part of the town's identity. They describe moments when the town feels alive, as though the voices, footsteps, and fleeting figures are reminders that Bodie's history is not just preserved in wood and glass, but in memory, lingering energy, and unresolved stories. Bodie State Historic Park is more than just a glimpse into California's mining past. It is a place where the echoes of life and death, joy and hardship, linger in the air, waiting to be noticed. The ghostly figures, unexplained sounds, and cold spots all serve as a reminder that the people of Bodie left more than their belongings behind. They left pieces of themselves, trapped within the town they called home. Visitors may come seeking history, adventure, or photography, but many leave with the feeling that Bodie is watching, remembering, and quietly telling its stories to anyone willing to listen. Fort Humboldt State Historic Park, overlooking the city of Eureka in Northern California, stands as a silent witness to the turbulent past of the region. Established in 1853 as a military post during the Indian Wars, the fort was intended to maintain order between European settlers and the native Wyatt people. Its history is marked by tension, conflict, and death, and today, visitors report that the echoes of the past linger among the remaining stone foundations, barracks, and commanding officers' quarters. Those who walk the grounds often experience an unusual sense of unease, as though the land itself holds the memories of battles, sorrow, and unfinished stories. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at Fort Humboldt involves sounds. Visitors frequently describe hearing the distant rhythm of marching soldiers, even when no one is present. Boots clatter against the wooden floors of empty barracks. Muskets seem to click into place, and commands echo faintly across the parade grounds. One park volunteer recalled setting up an exhibit in the former barracks, when she distinctly heard orders being barked, followed by the sounds of soldiers running in formation. She rushed outside, expecting a reenactment or a group of visitors, but the grounds were completely empty. The sounds vanished as abruptly as they had appeared, leaving a chilling silence behind. Apparitions are another recurring aspect of Fort Humboldt's haunted reputation. Some describe officers inspecting the fort from the commanding officer's quarters, while others see soldiers performing routine tasks, such as cleaning weapons or tending fires in the hearths. These figures are usually semi-transparent, fading when approached, yet leaving an unmistakable impression of presence. Several visitors have also reported seeing Native Americans moving along the edges of the fort, appearing briefly before disappearing into the surrounding woods. These encounters are often described as solemn rather than aggressive, as though the spirits are bound to the fort by history rather than malice. The park's oppressive atmosphere is frequently noted by those who visit. Many report sudden drops in temperature, a heavy feeling in the chest, or the sensation of invisible eyes upon them. Hikers along the trails surrounding the fort have described the wind whispering unintelligible words through the trees, and even experienced a sense of being followed while walking alone. These sensations are strongest near the barracks and parade grounds, areas historically associated with the fort's military operations. Some suggest that the collective energy of soldiers, officers, and native peoples caught in conflict has left an imprint on the land, producing these inexplicable feelings and experiences. Strange objects and interactions with the environment have also been reported. Doors are said to open and close on their own, and lights in the visitor center occasionally flicker inexplicably. One night, a park ranger reported seeing a lantern swing gently outside a barracks window, even though no one had been near the area. On multiple occasions, visitors have felt sudden touches or brushes of air that resembled the presence of someone standing nearby, only to find the space empty moments later. These subtle interactions add to the sense that Fort Humboldt is more than a static historical site. It's a place where past and present intersect, where memories of lives once lived continue to assert themselves. The history of Fort Humboldt itself contributes heavily to its haunted nature. Built during a period of great tension, the fort was a site of both protective and aggressive military action. Soldiers stationed here faced harsh conditions, disease, and the constant threat of violence. Native American communities, particularly the Waihat, experienced forced displacement and violence, leaving scars that lingered long after the fort was decommissioned. These layers of human suffering, combined with the fort's isolation and the raw beauty of its surrounding landscape, create a setting ripe for ghostly activity. Many believe that both soldiers and native spirits remain tethered to the site, replaying fragments of their lives and conflicts for those who enter. Some of the most striking encounters involve visual and auditory experiences combined. Visitors report seeing a soldier standing at the edge of the parade ground, while simultaneously hearing the sound of boots striking the earth in unison with other phantom troops. Others have seen figures appear near the stone foundations of old structures, their outlines clear against the mist or fog that often rolls in from Humboldt Bay. In one account, a group of visitors saw two soldiers emerge from the trees near the fort, speaking in low voices before disappearing completely as if swallowed by the air. These simultaneous visual and auditory phenomena give the fort a particularly intense spectral presence. Fort Humboldt State Park remains open to the public, attracting both history enthusiasts and those intrigued by the paranormal. Its well-preserved ruins, interpretive displays, and scenic views of Humboldt Bay provide a rich educational experience. Yet even casual visitors cannot ignore the stories of ghostly soldiers, apparitions of native peoples, and the inexplicable sensations reported on the grounds. For some, The fort is simply a fascinating historical site. For others, it is a place where the past is vividly alive, lingering just beyond perception. The combination of historical significance, tragic events, and eerie phenomena makes Fort Humboldt a unique destination for those interested in haunted locations. The echoes of marching soldiers, the faint glow of ghostly lanterns, and the presence of figures in period attire all point to a history that refuses to be forgotten. Landscapes. They carry with them the lingering impression that Fort Humboldt holds the spirits of those who shaped its story, bound forever to the land where their lives and conflicts unfolded. El Adobe de Capistrano. Nestled in the historic heart of San Juan Capistrano, California, is a building steeped in history and mystery, constructed in the early 19th century. It originally served as a stagecoach stop, providing weary travelers with food, shelter, and respite along the dusty roads of Southern California. Over the decades, it became an inn and a gathering place for locals and visitors alike. Yet, beyond its charming adobe walls and picturesque courtyards, El Adobe de Capistrano is said to harbor the lingering presence of those who passed through its doors, their spirits trapped by the passage of time or tied to the memories of the journeys they undertook. Visitors often report an immediate sensation upon entering the building, a sudden drop in temperature, a weighty stillness, as though the air itself remembers the countless travelers who once sought comfort there. Footsteps echo across the hardwood floors and stone pathways even when no one is present, and the soft murmur of voices can sometimes be heard in the dim corners of the inn. Some have described the sensation of being watched, as though unseen eyes track their movements through the rooms, observing with curiosity or silent intent. One of the most commonly reported phenomena involves apparitions. Guests and staff alike have claimed to see figures dressed in period clothing gliding silently through the hallways. Some appear as travelers, clad in old-fashioned coats and hats, carrying luggage or reaching for doors that no longer exist. Others are described as women in long, flowing dresses, moving with a deliberate pace, as if retracing steps they once walked during their lives. One visitor reported seeing a man pause near the dining area, as though waiting for a meal long since served, before vanishing when approached. These ghostly figures often appear in fleeting glimpses in the corner of a room or reflections in glass, but the sense of their presence is undeniable. Footsteps are another hallmark of the haunting at El Adobe de Capistrano. Guests have recounted hearing the unmistakable sound of boots or shoes on the wooden floors late at night, often in areas that should be empty. Some claim that the footsteps move in rhythm, suggesting more than one spirit, while others describe pauses and changes in pace, as if the unseen occupants are navigating the building carefully, avoiding the living while still making their presence known. These unexplained sounds frequently occur near the old lobby and the main dining area, both spaces that were once bustling with travelers and innkeepers in the building's heyday. Cold spots and sudden drops in temperature are reported throughout the adobe. Visitors often note chills in specific rooms or long corridors. One particularly striking account came from a tour group exploring the main hall on a warm afternoon. As they moved through the room, a sudden icy gust of air swept over them, extinguishing a candle and leaving several members shivering despite the sun streaming through the windows. No ventilation or draft could account for the phenomenon, leading many to believe it was the work of lingering spirits. Some encounters are more interactive. Visitors report objects moving inexplicably, doors opening or closing without explanation, and lights flickering in certain areas. In one case, a guest placed a coat on a chair, only to return moments later to find it neatly folded on a nearby table. Others describe hearing the creak of chairs or the shifting of heavy furniture in areas that are otherwise empty. These subtle disturbances suggest a playful or watchful presence. Spirits who are aware of the living and who interact with the environment in ways that are at once gentle and unsettling. The building's long history adds layers to its haunting. El Adobe de Capistrano was a stagecoach stop in a period when travel was arduous and perilous. Travelers often faced the threat of bandits, harsh weather, or accidents along the rugged roads. Some who arrived at the adobe may have died shortly thereafter, their final moments intertwined with the others may have suffered from illnesses or injuries, their spirits lingering in the places where they felt comfort and safety. Even long after the adobe ceased functioning as a stagecoach stop, its use as an inn and gathering place allowed countless stories, triumphs, tragedies, and quiet personal moments to be etched into the building's atmosphere. Sightings are often accompanied by auditory phenomena as well. Guests have reported hearing distant conversations, faint laughter, and the sound of doors opening and closing in unison with unseen movement. Some claim to hear the rustle of skirts or coats brushing against floors, while others report the faint creaking of luggage or the tapping of boots in hallways. These sounds are never threatening but carry a distinct sense of the past intruding upon the present, as if the adobe itself is recalling moments frozen in time. The adobe's courtyards and exterior spaces are not exempt from the haunting. Visitors exploring the gardens or walking near the original stagecoach pathways have reported sudden chills, fleeting shadows, and the sensation of being followed. At night, the moon casts long, distorted shadows over the stone walls, giving the impression of figures moving among the arches and archways. Some have claimed to see the faint outline of a traveler on horseback or a coach drawn up at the adobe's entrance, only to vanish when approached. El Adobe de Capistrano offers more than just a glimpse into California's history. It provides a bridge between past and present, where the stories of travelers, innkeepers, and stagecoach passengers live on. The footsteps, cold spots, and apparitions remind visitors that the building holds memories, echoes of lives once lived, and perhaps a lingering connection to those who walked its halls centuries ago. Tourists and locals alike leave with the sense that while the adobe's doors may be closed to the living at certain hours, the spirits of its past occupants remain, walking the hallways, pacing the courtyards, and quietly observing all who enter. In this way, El Adobe de Capistrano is more than a historic building. It is a place where history and the supernatural coexist, where the past is tangible, and where visitors may feel, just for a moment, that the spirits of long-gone travelers are sharing the inn once again. The Barclay Steam Ferry, once a bustling commuter vessel, carried passengers across the waters of San Francisco Bay for decades. Its decks were filled with businessmen heading to the city, families returning from visits, and travelers eager to enjoy the scenic voyage across the bay. Yet, beneath the ferry's historical charm lies a story of tragedy and lingering spirits, a haunting that has persisted long after the last ferry ride ended. Those who visit the waterfront near Berkeley often report strange phenomena, sounds of engines that no longer exist, fleeting figures on the docks, and an unshakable feeling of being watched. The ferry itself met its end in a catastrophic accident during the early 20th century. Fog rolled in thick over the bay one winter evening, obscuring visibility and disorienting the captain and crew. Amid the mist and the churning waves, the ferry collided with another vessel. The crash was sudden and devastating, claiming the lives of dozens of passengers and crew members. Survivors described chaos, screams, and a terrifying sense of helplessness as the vessel lurched and sank into the icy waters. News of the tragedy spread quickly, and the Barclay Steam Ferry became forever associated with loss, fear, and unresolved sorrow. Even decades later, people visiting the waterfront report experiences that defy explanation. Many have claimed to hear the distinctive sounds of a steam engine starting up, whistles echoing across the water, and the rhythmic clanking of metal against wood. One longshore worker described walking along the pier at night when he suddenly heard the deep, resonant chug of a ferry's engine and the unmistakable hiss of steam releasing from its boiler. Looking toward the water, he saw nothing but the gentle waves reflecting the city lights. Yet the sounds persisted for several minutes before fading into silence. The experience left him shaken, certain that the ferry's presence lingered on the bay even after its demise. Apparitions are also a common theme among witnesses. Visitors describe seeing faint outlines of passengers milling about on the piers or the water's surface, often dressed in early 20th century clothing. Some claim to glimpse figures leaning over the railings, peering toward the city with expressions of anxiety or anticipation, as though caught forever in the final moments before the crash. Crew members appear as well, some adjusting invisible ropes or steering wheels, their faces pale and features blurred. These figures often vanish when approached, leaving only a sudden, inexplicable silence and a lingering sense of unease. One particularly chilling account came from a night fisherman who had anchored near the old ferry route. He reported hearing multiple voices calling out over the water, passengers shouting for help, crew members giving orders, and children crying. The fisherman tried to locate the source, shining his lantern across the dark bay, but saw nothing. As he turned to leave, he felt a cold wind rush past him, carrying the faint smell of coal smoke and salt water. He later learned that several passengers had perished in that exact spot during the ferry disaster, reinforcing his belief that the bay itself held their memories. The area near the Berkeley waterfront, once the ferry's boarding point, is now quiet during the night. But some locals claim that the water is far from empty. Kayakers and evening joggers have reported feeling an unexplained presence on the docks, a sensation of being observed by unseen eyes. Some have described seeing faint shadows moving across the surface of the water, rising and falling as if caught between worlds. Others report hearing the metallic scraping of chains and ropes. Sounds consistent with a vessel long gone but vividly alive in memory. Several paranormal researchers have explored the area, documenting these occurrences and noting patterns. The majority of experiences happen near foggy evenings or overcast days, when visibility is low and the bay carries an eerie, still silence. Witnesses often report a combination of auditory and visual phenomena, the echo of the steam engine, the flicker of ghostly figures, and the persistent feeling of being in the presence of something that existed long before. Some suggest these are residual haunting, imprints of the traumatic events that occurred during the ferry's sinking. Others speculate that the ferry itself, a vessel of countless human stories and sudden death, serves as a conduit for restless spirits. Visitors occasionally leave tokens or small memorials on the pier, paying respects to the lives lost in the accident. Some claim that the presence intensifies when someone acknowledges the ferry and its history, as if the spirits are responding to the recognition of their tragedy. There are reports of objects moving slightly, a bottle tipping over, a piece of driftwood shifting, or a small ripple in the water appearing without cause. While skeptics attribute these occurrences to wind, tides, or imagination, the consistency and emotional impact on witnesses suggests that the ferry's legacy lingers, both as history and as something more elusive. The Berkeley Steam Ferry stands as a reminder that tragedy can leave a lasting mark, not only in records and newspapers, but in the very environment where events unfolded. The ferry's story is preserved not only in historical accounts, but in the echoes and shadows that continue to appear on foggy nights along the bay. Visitors, whether historians, paranormal enthusiasts, or casual passersby, often leave with a heightened awareness of the past, a sense that the lives of those aboard the ferry, lost in one fateful moment, are still present in some form, lingering between the mists of the San Francisco Bay and the memory of those who remember. For those who approach the Berkeley waterfront with respect, the ferry's presence is a haunting yet poignant reminder of history, mortality, and the thin line between the living and the dead. The clanging of steam engines, the cries of passengers, and the flickering apparitions all serve to remind us that while time moves on, some stories, especially tragic ones, never truly disappear. They simply wait, silent and watchful, in the fog over the bay. The Hollywood sign, perched high on the hills above Los Angeles, is a symbol of fame, dreams, and the allure of the entertainment industry. Millions of tourists flock to the area each year, eager to snap photographs and take in the panoramic views of the city below. Yet beneath its glamorous exterior, the sign harbors a darker history, a story that is whispered among locals and paranormal enthusiasts alike. At the center of this haunting is the tragic tale of Peg Entwistle, a young actress whose life and death became inseparably tied to the Hollywood sign, casting a shadow that some claim still lingers in the hills above Los Angeles. In 1932, Peg Entwistle was an aspiring actress trying to make her mark in the film industry. Though she had found some success on the stage, the pressures and disappointments of Hollywood weighed heavily on her. Struggling with depression and feelings of isolation, she climbed to the top of the iconic H of the Hollywoodland sign, one September day, and jumped to her death. Her body was discovered shortly afterward. In the decades that followed, sightings of her spirit began to circulate, transforming the landmark into more than just a symbol of ambition. It became a place where history, tragedy, and the supernatural converged. Visitors to the Hollywood sign today often report strange and unsettling experiences. Many speak of a sudden, inexplicable chill in the air as they approach the sign, as if the temperature drops precisely where Peg's life ended. Some have described the faint, lingering scent of gardenias, her favorite perfume, carried on the wind even when no flowers are nearby. Hikers and photographers in the area report an eerie sensation of being watched, their instincts warning them that something is present just beyond their vision. The combination of panoramic vistas and isolated trails makes the setting ripe for ghostly encounters. Apparitions of Peg Entwistle have been reported numerous times over the years. Witnesses describe seeing a young woman in 1930s attire, often a simple dress and cardigan, standing near the base or atop the H. Some claim she appears to look down at the city, her posture contemplative, almost mournful, while others report seeing her gazing at the people hiking the trails below, as if observing the living from a world beyond. When approached, she reportedly vanishes, leaving only the faint scent of gardenias or the sudden realization that no one else is around. These apparitions are typically described as fleeting, yet their emotional impact is profound, instilling both sorrow and unease in those who encounter them. Auditory phenomena accompany many of these sightings. Hikers have reported hearing faint sobs, whispers, or the soft echo of footsteps near the sign, especially during quiet evenings or foggy mornings. Some claim that their cameras and recording equipment malfunction in the area, capturing nothing despite visible movements in their view. The combination of visual and auditory anomalies creates a chilling atmosphere, suggesting that Peg's presence is not merely imagined, but actively manifesting around the landmark where her life tragically ended. One of the most commonly reported experiences involves sudden changes in mood or perception. Visitors recount feeling overwhelmed by a sense of sadness or despair, even when arriving in good spirits. Others describe vertigo or dizziness when standing near the top of the trails leading to the sign, as if the weight of history presses down on them. In several accounts, hikers have felt an invisible hand brush against their shoulder or the sensation of being gently guided away from the edge of the cliff. A silent intervention from a spirit unable to rest. The legend of Peg Entwistle has also grown through personal encounters shared by those working or living near the sign. Security personnel and maintenance workers often speak of seeing a figure moving along the hillside at night, disappearing before they can investigate. Amateur photographers report capturing unexplained shadows in their images, shadows shaped like a young woman, standing or walking in areas where no one was present. Even local residents tell stories of lights flickering or distant footsteps echoing in the hills above, attributing these experiences to the restless presence of Peg's spirit. Despite the fame and popularity of the Hollywood sign, it remains a place where life and death intersect, and that some histories leave more than memory. They leave imprints on the places where they unfolded. For those who visit today, the hills above Los Angeles offer more than breathtaking views and iconic photo opportunities. They also offer a connection to a past filled with ambition, heartbreak, and lingering presence. Paranormal enthusiasts continue to explore the area, documenting sightings and collecting stories, each adding to the legend of the haunted Hollywood sign. Hikers, photographers, and local historians alike caution that while the trails are beautiful, they are also places of reflection and respect, where one can encounter both the grandeur of Los Angeles and the lingering echoes of tragedy. The ghost of Peg Entwistle reminds visitors that the Hollywood dream is not without its shadows, and that the stories of those who came before can sometimes cross the boundary between life and death. The Hollywood sign endures as a landmark of hope, ambition, and the relentless pursuit of fame. Yet, for those who tread the trails near its towering letters at night or during the quiet hours of dawn, the story of Peg Entwistle offers a haunting counterpoint, a reminder that the past is never truly gone. The echoes of her presence linger in the mist, the scent of gardenias, and the sudden chills that sweep the hillside. Visitors leave with a mixture of awe and unease, knowing that while they have witnessed the symbol of dreams, they may also have glimpsed the restless spirit of a young actress forever connected to the iconic sign. Chilnuana Falls Trail, tucked deep within the stunning wilderness of Yosemite National Park, is celebrated for its breathtaking scenery, cascading waterfalls, and challenging hiking paths. The trail leads adventurers past lush forests, rugged cliffs, and the roaring beauty of Chilnuana Falls itself, drawing hikers seeking both exercise and natural splendor. Yet, behind the trail's serene beauty lies a somber tale, a story of tragedy and lingering presence that has cast a shadow over this picturesque path. Local legend speaks of a young boy who lost his life in the falls many decades ago, and those who hike the trail today sometimes report experiences that suggest his spirit has never left. According to the legend, the boy was exploring near the top of the falls with his family when a sudden misstep sent him tumbling into the rushing waters below. Despite desperate attempts to rescue him, he was swept over the edge and vanished beneath the powerful currents. The grief of his family and the trauma of the accident left a mark on the area, and hikers for generations have claimed that the boy's presence lingers near the falls, a spirit forever entwined with the cascading waters that took his life. Visitors to Chilnuana Falls Trail often speak of an unusual stillness or unease as they approach the waterfalls. The trail itself is quiet, surrounded by dense pine forests that muffle the sounds of the outside world. Many hikers report sudden drops in temperature along certain portions of the path, particularly near the edge of the falls. One hiker described moving along a sunlit stretch of trail when a sudden, icy chill swept over him, leaving him shivering despite his heavy jacket. Looking around, he noticed that the forest was otherwise still, with no wind or weather to account for the temperature change. These abrupt and localized cold spots are a hallmark of the trail's haunted reputation. Sounds are another common feature of the Chilnuana Falls haunting. Hikers have reported hearing the faint, unmistakable sound of a child crying, often echoing from the direction of the falls. At times, the cries are soft and distant, almost imperceptible, while at other moments they can be sharp and piercing, sending chills down the spine. Some claim the cries are accompanied by splashing sounds, as if a child is playing in the water, though when investigated, no one is present. One camper recounted hearing laughter mixed with sobbing near a pool at the base of the falls late one evening, only to find the area completely deserted. The combination of sight, sound, and atmosphere creates a sense of unease that lingers long after hikers leave the trail. Sightings of the boy are rare, but they have been reported by hikers and park rangers alike. Witnesses describe seeing the figure of a small child standing near the edge of the falls, often in wet clothing, staring down at the water below. Some say he appears sad or distressed, as though caught in the moment of his untimely death. Others report glimpsing him running along the trail or disappearing into the trees, leaving behind only the faint echo of footsteps. These apparitions are generally described as fleeting and elusive, yet their emotional impact is profound, leaving witnesses with a deep sense of sorrow and unease. The legend also speaks of subtle, interactive experiences. Some hikers claim to feel a gentle tug on their clothing or the sensation of someone brushing past them when no one else is nearby. Others report that objects, such as small sticks or leaves, appear to move as if guided by an unseen hand, shifting slightly when hikers pause or turn away. While these occurrences could be dismissed as natural phenomena, their frequency and consistency have led many to believe that the spirit of the boy is actively present, aware of those walking the trail and seeking to make his presence known. The natural environment of Chilnuana Falls Trail enhances its haunting reputation. The sound of cascading water, The rustle of leaves in the wind and the shifting shadows cast by the surrounding cliffs create a landscape that is both beautiful and eerie. Fog can settle into the canyon unexpectedly, reducing visibility and adding an otherworldly quality to the hike. Many hikers report that the atmosphere changes dramatically as they near the falls, with sunlight giving way to sudden shadows, mist rising from the pools below, and the air growing heavy and cold. These environmental factors combine with the legend of the drowned boy to create an immersive and unsettling experience for those exploring the trail. For generations, the story of the young boy has been passed down among park visitors and local residents, serving as both a cautionary tale and a ghostly legend. Parents warn children to stay close, hikers remain vigilant near the falls, and some choose to avoid the upper reaches of the trail altogether. Yet, despite tour, perhaps because of the haunting, Chilnawana Falls Trail continues to draw adventurers seeking to experience its beauty, its challenge, and its supernatural mystery. The presence of the boy's spirit serves as a reminder that even the most breathtaking landscapes can carry memories of sorrow, loss, and lingering attachment, whether real or imagined. The ghostly phenomena on Chilnawana Falls Trail are reported frequently enough to leave an impression on all who walk its paths. The cries of the child, the sudden cold spots, the fleeting figures, and the oppressive sense of being watched create a haunting that blends seamlessly with the natural splendor of Yosemite National Park. For some, the experience is terrifying. For others, it is a solemn and emotional encounter with the past. Chilnawana Falls Trail endures as both a natural treasure and a haunted landmark. Hikers are reminded that the beauty of the falls comes with a history of tragedy, and that the echoes of the past can still be felt in the rushing waters, the mist, and the shaded paths. As visitors climb the trail, pause near the waterfalls, or linger by the pools below, they may sense that the boy who drowned long ago has never truly left, that his presence remains an inseparable part of the canyon, quietly watching, sometimes crying, and forever bound to the place where his life ended. The Mist Trail in Yosemite National Park is renowned for its breathtaking beauty and challenging ascent, winding past towering cliffs, dense forests, and roaring waterfalls. It leads hikers to two of Yosemite's most iconic sites, Vernal Fall and Nevada Fall. The trail is famous not only for its dramatic scenery but also for the clouds of mist that rise from the waterfalls, creating rainbows in the sunlight and an ethereal atmosphere. Yet behind the natural splendor lies a darker history, a legacy of accidents, tragedies, and experiences that hint at something beyond the ordinary. Over the years, hikers have reported strange sounds, sudden chills, and even ghostly apparitions, making the Mist Trail one of California's most haunted hiking paths. The trail has always been perilous, and countless visitors have been injured or killed on its slippery rocks and steep paths. In particular, the areas near Vernal and Nevada Falls are notorious for sudden accidents. Hikers have lost their footing on wet stones, and swift currents have claimed those who ventured too close to the water. The repeated tragedies along this route have left an imprint, both in the memory of the park and, according to local legend, in the very fabric of the trail itself. Many believe that the spirits of those who perished in these accidents linger near the falls, watching over or warning the living. Visitors often report hearing footsteps behind them when no one is there. On the narrow portions of the trail, where mist rises from Vernal Fall and clings to the rocks, hikers sometimes feel as if someone is pacing just behind them, keeping pace with their every step. When they turn around, there is no one, only the trail winding upward and the sound of rushing water. Some describe the footsteps as uneven, like a child trying to keep up with an adult, while others claim the rhythm matches their own, echoing their heartbeat, creating a sense of unease that intensifies as one approaches the falls. Apparitions are another frequent occurrence. Visitors have reported seeing faint figures near the edge of Vernal Fall and Nevada Fall. Some describe shadowy forms crouched on the rocks, staring down into the water, while others claim to see translucent shapes moving along the trail or climbing the steep granite steps. One hiker described a sudden vision of a young woman in early 20th century clothing, standing near a pool at the base of Vernal Fall, staring silently at the rushing water. When he blinked, she was gone, leaving only the echo of flowing water and a lingering feeling of sadness. Others have claimed glimpses of men, women, and children, all appearing as if frozen in the moments just before tragedy struck. Auditory phenomena often accompany these sightings. Hikers report the faint sounds of cries, laughter, or calls for help, carried on the wind or mingling with the roar of the waterfalls. Some say that the sound of water intensifies unnaturally near certain spots, as if the falls themselves are echoing the anguish of those who have fallen. One group of hikers recounted hearing a distant scream, followed by silence, as they rounded a bend near the top of Vernal Fall. No other hikers were present, and the source of the scream was never identified, leaving them shaken and wary of continuing the ascent. The mist trail's unique environment amplifies its eerie qualities. Fog and mist rising from the waterfalls can obscure vision, making the trail appear to shift and change. Shadows fall unpredictably across the granite, and sunlight filtering through the forest creates shifting patterns that can suggest movement where there is none. In these moments, hikers report the sensation of being watched, of unseen eyes tracking their progress along the trail. Even the steady roar of the falls can take on an almost human quality, rising and falling in a cadence that some interpret as whispers or warnings from the past. Some hikers report physical sensations that are difficult to explain. Cold spots appear along the trail, sometimes concentrated near the edge of the waterfalls or along the narrower sections of granite steps. A sense of heaviness or dread can settle over the body, as if the weight of the fallen hangs in the air. Certain hikers have felt a gentle tug at their clothing or a pressure on their shoulders, subtle touches that vanish the moment they look around. While skeptics attribute these experiences to imagination or fatigue, their consistency across multiple reports suggests that something unexplained lingers on the trail. Tragic events continue to occur on the mist trail, reinforcing its haunted reputation. Each accident is documented by the park, and the memory of those lost is honored with cautionary signs and warnings. Yet the combination of natural beauty, danger, and historical tragedy has created an environment where the past seems to bleed into the present. Hikers who venture on the mist trail often find themselves on more than a physical journey. They are walking a path marked by memory, sorrow, and lingering spirits. The mist trail stands as a reminder that even the most scenic and popular locations can harbor darkness. The stories of ghostly footsteps, apparitions, and cries echoing through the mist are passed from hiker to hiker, becoming an integral part of the trail's identity. Whether these experiences are manifestations of spirits, echoes of trauma, or psychological reactions to the trail's natural hazards, they leave a lasting impression. For many, the trail's beauty is inseparable from its haunting, and the thrill of climbing to Vernal and Nevada Falls is tinged with the knowledge that they tread where others have faced danger and, sometimes, death. Walking the mist trail, visitors encounter more than waterfalls and granite cliffs. They step into a landscape shaped by nature and tragedy, where the cries of the past mingle with the present. The ghostly footsteps, fleeting apparitions, and sudden chills serve as a reminder that Yosemite's majesty is not without its shadows. Those who hike the trail may leave with memories of stunning scenery, but they may also carry the sensation of being watched, the echo of voices that are no longer among the living, and the haunting awareness that the mist trail holds stories the eye cannot see. Mount Baldy, rising majestically in the San Bernardino Mountains of Southern California, is a magnet for hikers, climbers, and outdoor enthusiasts. Its rugged terrain, steep inclines, and breathtaking vistas attract adventurers seeking both physical challenge and scenic reward. Yet beneath its natural beauty lies a shadowed history, a legacy of accidents and fatalities that has earned the mountain a reputation among locals and thrill-seekers as a place where the past never truly rests. Beyond the thrill of its trails, Mount Baldy carries a haunting presence, one that has been reported by hikers and visitors for decades. The mountain has claimed the lives of many who sought to conquer its slopes, Steep cliffs, loose rocks, sudden weather changes, and treacherous terrain have made even experienced hikers vulnerable. Each tragic incident leaves behind not only sorrow but, according to local lore, lingering spirits. Over the years, visitors have reported strange phenomena that suggest the mountain retains echoes of these past tragedies, manifesting as auditory, visual, and physical sensations that cannot be easily explained. Footsteps are among the most frequently reported experiences. Hikers often recount hearing heavy, deliberate steps behind them on narrow ridges or steep switchbacks. When they turn to look, no one is there. Sometimes, the steps seem to match their own pace. Other times, they follow in a slower, uneven rhythm, as if someone is struggling along the path. One hiker described feeling an invisible presence keeping pace with him along a rocky trail, a sensation that filled him with both fear and sorrow. It was only when he paused, listening intently, that the sound faded, leaving him in an unsettling silence punctuated by the whistle of wind through the pines. Apparitions have been reported in various locations along Mount Baldy's trails. Witnesses speak of shadowy figures appearing on ridgelines or near cliffs, often fleeting and partially obscured by fog or tree cover. Some hikers have described seeing fully formed figures, hikers who died on the mountain climbing or descending trails, as if reliving their final moments. One visitor recounted a chilling encounter near the summit, where a group of translucent figures appeared to adjust their backpacks and check their maps, only to vanish moments later as he blinked. These sightings are typically brief, yet the impression they leave is lasting, instilling a sense of the mountain's unresolved history. Auditory phenomena add another layer to Mount Baldy's haunting. Hikers report hearing cries, whispers, or murmurs carried by the wind. In certain areas, the sound of distant voices is described as nearly human, sometimes resembling warnings or urgent calls for help. Other times, the noises are more abstract, sorrowful, wails, or low, rhythmic chants that seem to echo from the valleys below. Visitors often notice these sounds intensifying near areas where accidents have historically occurred, suggesting a connection between the mountain's tragic past and the phenomena experienced by those who traverse its trails today. Physical sensations accompany many encounters. Sudden drops in temperature have been reported even on warm days, often localized to specific parts of the trail. Hikers describe an eerie heaviness in the air or a tightening of the chest, a subtle pressure, as if the mountain itself is aware of their presence. Some have felt gentle brushes against their clothing or fleeting touches on their shoulders, as though unseen guides or watchers are walking beside them. While fatigue and natural environmental factors might explain some of these sensations, the frequency and consistency of reports have convinced many that Mount Baldy holds a supernatural element that transcends explanation. The summit, while offering panoramic views of the surrounding mountains and valleys, is also a hotspot for paranormal experiences. Hikers reaching the top sometimes report the sudden appearance of shadowy figures at the edges of cliffs, seemingly observing the landscape below. Others describe the feeling of being watched, despite the absence of other people on the trails. One climber recounted seeing a lone figure appear at a rocky outcrop across a chasm, staring directly at him with no discernible facial features. When he focused, the figure vanished into the mist, leaving only a lingering sense of unease. Mount Baldy's haunting is not limited to the trails themselves. The base of the mountain, where the forest thickens and the paths narrow, is also associated with strange phenomena. Visitors report hearing laughter, footsteps, and conversations in areas where no one else is present. Some have seen figures moving among the trees, only to disappear when approached. The interplay of light, shadow, and fog creates a setting that enhances the mountain's mysterious and foreboding reputation. For generations, stories of Mount Baldy's hauntings have been shared among hikers, climbers, and locals. Some view these tales as cautionary, warning of the mountain's physical dangers, while others believe the stories reflect a lingering spiritual presence. Regardless of interpretation, the mountain commands respect, its beauty intertwined with its history of tragedy. Hikers are reminded that every step may bring them closer not only to natural splendor, but also to the echoes of lives lost in pursuit of adventure. Mount Baldy endures as both a scenic wonder and a haunted landmark. The footprints of those who perished, the whispers of unseen voices, and the fleeting apparitions all contribute to an atmosphere that is both awe-inspiring and unsettling. Visitors leave the trails with memories of dramatic vistas and challenging climbs, but often carry with them the haunting impression that the mountain is alive in another way, preserving the presence of those who walked, stumbled, and sometimes fell long before them. The mountain's rugged beauty, combined with its history of accidents and the mysterious experiences of hikers, ensures that Mount Baldy remains a destination where the past refuses to stay buried. Every trail, cliff, and ridge is steeped in stories of courage, misfortune, and lingering spirits. Whether one experiences the supernatural firsthand or simply senses the weight of history in the air, Mount Baldy offers more than a hike. It is an encounter with the mountain's enduring presence, a place where life, death, and memory converge amidst the stunning wilderness of the San Bernardino Mountains. Mount Whitney, standing at 14,505 feet, is the tallest peak in the contiguous United States, drawing hikers, climbers, and adventurers from around the world. Its imposing presence dominates the eastern Sierra Nevada, promising both breathtaking vistas and a grueling challenge. Each year, thousands attempt the ascent, eager to conquer the summit and gaze upon the sweeping panoramas of Inyo National Forest. Yet, beneath the glory and accomplishment lies a darker side to the mountain, one marked by tragedy, misfortune, and, according to local lore, lingering spirits. Mount Whitney has claimed many lives over the decades. Harsh weather, steep inclines, altitude sickness, and sheer exhaustion have all contributed to accidents along its trails. Even experienced climbers are not immune to the dangers posed by sudden storms, loose rock, and thin air. Each tragedy leaves behind not only sorrow for families and friends, but also stories of eerie encounters and unexplained phenomena that continue to haunt the mountain. Many hikers report sensations that suggest the mountain's history of death and misfortune has left a lingering presence. Footsteps are a common experience for those who hike Whitney's trails. Hikers often report hearing the sound of someone pacing behind them on the narrow granite paths, matching their own steps or lagging slightly, only to vanish when turned upon. One climber recounted moving along the switchbacks when he distinctly heard another person climbing behind him. He glanced over his shoulder, seeing no one on the trail. The steps continued for several minutes before fading entirely, leaving him unsettled and questioning what he had heard. These auditory experiences are often accompanied by a profound sense of being watched, as if unseen eyes are following the hiker along the ascent. Apparitions have been reported sporadically on Mount Whitney. Witnesses describe fleeting images of climbers who appear partially transparent, often near areas where past accidents occurred. One hiker claimed to see a young man in climbing gear, frozen mid-step on a rock ledge, staring blankly at the trail below. Moments later, he was gone, leaving no trace except for the chilling memory. Others have reported seeing figures crouched near the trail or perched on boulders, vanishing as soon as they are noticed. These sightings are often subtle, brief, and disorienting, but their emotional impact on witnesses can be profound. The mountains, weather, and natural features contribute to the eerie experiences. Sudden fog can envelop the trail, reducing visibility to mere feet. Thunderstorms can roll in unexpectedly, the sound of distant claps echoing across the valleys. In these moments, hikers often report a heightened sense of unease, as if the mountain itself is alive and aware of their presence. Cold spots, particularly near high ridges or narrow ledges, are frequently reported, creating an almost supernatural chill that cannot be explained by the ambient temperature. One hiker described a sudden drop in temperature while ascending the final approach to the summit, noting that the cold seemed concentrated in a small circle around him, leaving the surrounding rocks warm in comparison. The trail to Mount Whitney is also known for auditory phenomena beyond footsteps. Hikers report hearing whispers, murmurs, and occasional cries that seem to carry across the ridges and valleys. Sometimes the sounds are distinct, almost as if another climber is speaking, while at other times they are faint, blending with the wind and the rush of nearby streams. One veteran mountaineer recounted hearing his own name whispered repeatedly during a climb, though he was entirely alone. The experience left him shaken, prompting him to descend immediately, feeling that the mountain itself was issuing a warning. Physical sensations accompany many reported encounters. Hikers have described sudden pressure on their shoulders, the sensation of being lightly pushed, or a tug on clothing, as if someone or something is walking beside them. Fatigue, altitude, and stress might account for some of these sensations. Yet the consistency of reports across decades has convinced many that Mount Whitney holds a supernatural aspect tied to its history of misfortune. Mount Whitney's summit, while awe-inspiring, is also a locus for many strange experiences. Hikers describe the feeling of being observed at the very top. Despite the expansive views and open skies, shadowy figures appear along the edges of cliffs, sometimes on distant ridges, as though the mountain's spirits are watching over those who venture to its heights. In certain cases, hikers report fleeting glimpses of climbers in old-fashioned gear, reminiscent of those who perished decades ago, frozen in time atop the granite slopes. The mountain has long been a source of cautionary tales. Rangers and locals share stories of climbers who disappeared without explanation, or who were found disoriented in areas where accidents had previously occurred. Each new tragedy seems to reinforce the sense that Whitney is not just a physical challenge, but a place where history and memory linger in an almost tangible form. Many hikers approach the mountain with reverence, mindful of its dangers and the spirits said to reside along its trails. Mount Whitney endures as both a symbol of human achievement and a haunted landscape. The combination of breathtaking scenery, treacherous terrain, and a history filled with fatalities creates an environment ripe for eerie encounters. Visitors may leave with memories of stunning views and personal triumph, but some carry with them the lingering impression that the mountain is alive in another way, a presence that watches, whispers, and remembers those who dared to tread its heights. Walking the trails of Mount Whitney, hikers encounter more than physical obstacles. They step into a space where the past is never entirely gone. The sounds, sightings, and sensations reported over decades suggest a mountain that holds both the glory of conquest and the shadow of tragedy. Each step taken along the granite slopes is a reminder that nature's beauty can be intertwined with danger, and that Mount Whitney, towering above the eastern Sierra Nevada, is a place where the past refuses to stay buried. Eaton Canyon, nestled in the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains in Pasadena, California, is one of the region's most beloved hiking destinations. The trail winds through rugged terrain, shaded groves, and rocky inclines before arriving at its centerpiece, a breathtaking waterfall that plunges into a secluded pool below. On any given day, hikers, families, and nature enthusiasts traverse the trail, drawn by its scenic beauty and the promise of a peaceful retreat. Yet, beyond its sunlit paths and cascading water, Eaton Canyon harbors a darker side, a history steeped in mystery and unexplained phenomena that has earned it a reputation as one of Southern California's most haunted hikes. Reports of paranormal activity along Eaton Canyon have persisted for decades. Hikers often speak of hearing whispers drifting through the trees, voices that seem to come from no discernible source. Sometimes the whispers sound like a faint conversation carried by the wind. Other times, they are urgent, almost pleading, sending chills down the spines of those who hear them. One hiker recalled pausing midway up the trail, certain he was not alone, only to hear the whispers rise and then abruptly fall silent. When he looked around, the canyon appeared empty, yet the sensation of being watched lingered, a heavy presence that refused to fade. Shadowy figures are another frequent encounter, reported by visitors. At dusk or in the thick of the wooded sections, hikers have claimed to see dark shapes moving along the edges of the trail, just beyond the reach of clear vision. Some describe the figures as humanoid, while others report them as amorphous, shifting with the shadows of the trees. One couple described seeing a tall silhouette perched on a rock near the waterfall, motionless and staring directly at them. When they blinked, it had vanished. leaving only the sound of water cascading into the pool below and the echo of their own racing hearts. The canyon's infamous waterfall has its own share of unsettling tales. Locals speak of hearing the distant sound of crying near the falls, even when no one is present. Hikers climbing the final stretch toward the pool have reported that the cries grow louder as they approach, only to disappear entirely once they reach the clearing. One visitor described a sudden, overwhelming feeling of sorrow as she neared the base of the waterfall, accompanied by a chill that swept through her despite a warm summer day. Though she searched the area for the source, no person or animal could be found, only the ceaseless roar of the water and the shadows cast by the canyon walls. Eaton Canyon is also tied to one of its most chilling legends, the headless figure. Locals have passed down stories of a phantom wandering the trails at night, a shadowy person without a head who drifts silently among the trees. Encounters with this figure are rare and fleeting, yet they are recounted with a mixture of fear and awe. Some hikers have described glimpsing the figure just as the sun sets, its form shrouded in mist and shadow. Others claim to have felt a presence brush past them, like someone walking closely on the trail, only to turn and see nothing. The legend has become so ingrained in the local folklore that night hikes on Eaton Canyon are often discouraged, particularly among those unfamiliar with the trail's eerie history. The canyon's geography seems to enhance its supernatural reputation. Steep cliffs, dense vegetation, and rocky outcrops create natural pockets of shadow where light rarely penetrates. Fog or mist rising from the lower canyon can distort vision, making familiar paths appear unfamiliar and amplifying even the smallest sounds. Footsteps echo unnaturally in the narrow sections, and the wind can carry whispers from one section of the canyon to another, giving the impression of unseen voices communicating across the trail. The interplay of light, shadow, and sound has led many to believe that the canyon itself is alive with the memories and spirits of those who have passed through. Physical sensations accompany many reported experiences on the trail. Hikers often speak of sudden chills that seem to emanate from nowhere, localized cold spots that defy the weather. Others report the sensation of being touched or brushed by an unseen presence, sometimes on the shoulder or along the back. One hiker recounted a moment near a rocky outcrop where he felt a pressure on his chest, as if the canyon itself were pressing down on him. When he turned, there was nothing, yet the sensation persisted for several minutes, leaving him shaken and wary of continuing. The combination of natural beauty and unsettling occurrences makes Eaton Canyon a trail that both captivates and unnerves. By day, the canyon offers spectacular views, the soothing sound of flowing water, and a chance to connect with nature. By night, or even in the quieter moments of the day, the echoes of whispers, fleeting shadows, and phantom cries remind visitors that the canyon is more than just rock and foliage. It is a space where the past lingers, where stories of loss, fear, and mystery intersect with the everyday footsteps of modern hikers. Eaton Canyon's haunting reputation is part of its enduring allure. Many hikers are drawn to the trail precisely because of the legends, eager to experience firsthand the strange sensations and glimpses of the unknown. Others come for the exercise, scenery, and solitude. For those who have spent time along its paths, the combination of breathtaking vistas and lingering mystery creates an unforgettable experience, one that lingers long after the hike is over. Walking the trails of Eaton Canyon, visitors encounter more than waterfalls and rocky paths. They step into a landscape imbued with history, folklore, and the faint echoes of those who came before. The whispers in the wind, the shadowy figures at the canyon's edges, and the cries near the waterfall are reminders that even the most scenic locations can carry secrets, and that the natural world is sometimes intertwined with the supernatural in ways that defy explanation. For those willing to listen, watch, and feel, Eaton Canyon offers a journey that is as eerie as it is beautiful a place, where the past refuses to stay silent. Los Pinatos Trail, winding through the rugged terrain of Topanga State Park, is a favorite among hikers seeking a blend of natural beauty and solitude. The trail meanders through dense groves of pine and oak, with sunlight filtering through the canopy during the day, creating a peaceful, almost magical atmosphere. Birds sing in the branches, and the scent of the forest florithy and fresh fills the air. Yet, beneath the trail's serene appearance lies a darker history, one that has earned Los Pinedos a reputation as one of California's more haunted hikes. For decades, hikers have reported strange occurrences that defy explanation. From ghostly figures to inexplicable lights and eerie sounds that echo through the trees, the legend of Los Pinedos begins with a tragic tale. Locals speak of a woman who decades ago met her untimely death along the trail. Details of her passing vary. Some say she slipped on a steep incline, while others suggest she vanished mysteriously, never to be found. Whatever the truth, her spirit is said to linger, wandering the forest and the winding paths she once traveled. Hikers often describe a sudden, unsettling presence, as if someone unseen is walking just behind them, pacing their steps, keeping silent, but ever present. One hiker recounted feeling a cold brush against her shoulder while ascending a shaded stretch of trail. She turned sharply, only to see empty air and the shifting shadows of the trees. Perhaps the most frequently reported phenomenon along Los Pinedos Trail is the mysterious lights. At dusk or after nightfall, hikers have seen small, glowing orbs floating between the trees, flickering in colors ranging from soft white to faint green or amber. The lights appear to move with intention, darting among the trunks and sometimes hovering in mid-air before vanishing entirely. Some witnesses attempt to follow the lights, only to find that they vanish when approached, as if teasing the observer. Local folklore suggests these lights are tied to the woman's spirit, guiding or warning hikers, though others speculate they may be manifestations of residual energy from past tragedies. Footsteps and whispers are another eerie aspect of the trail. Hikers frequently report hearing the sound of someone walking behind them on narrow paths, the crunch of leaves and twigs distinct yet unaccompanied by a visible figure. Occasionally, soft whispers drift through the trees, carrying words that are unintelligible or fleetingly coherent, perhaps a name, a plea, or a warning. One evening, a group of hikers paused along a ridge, certain they were not alone. They heard hurried footsteps circling the area, along with hushed, urgent murmurs. When they called out or turned to investigate, no one was there, leaving them unnerved and eager to continue down the trail. Shadowy figures add another layer of the trail's reputation. Witnesses describe dark, human-shaped silhouettes moving between the trees, sometimes seen at the edge of their vision or through breaks in the forest canopy. These figures are fleeting and often vanish when directly observed, leaving only an impression of movement, presence, or intent. Its posture was still and watchful. By the time she reached the top, the figure had disappeared without trace, though the sense of being observed lingered for the remainder of her hike. The dense canopy and uneven terrain create natural shadows that shift with the sun and moon, while the echoing of footsteps and murmurs is amplified by the trail's steep walls and hollows. Fog often rolls in from the nearby hills, draping the trail in mist and reducing visibility to mere feet. Under these conditions, familiar features of the landscape transform into something unfamiliar and ominous. Even during the day, hikers have reported moments where the quiet of the forest is punctuated by the sound of distant, deliberate steps or the impression of unseen eyes watching from the underbrush. Physical sensations accompany many encounters along Los Pinedos Trail. Sudden drops in temperature are commonly reported. Localized chills that appear without explanation and vanish just as quickly. Hikers have described feeling a hand lightly brush their arm, a gentle tug on their jacket, or a pressure on their shoulders as if someone were walking alongside them. These experiences, while subtle, leave a lasting impression and contribute to the trail's haunted reputation. One hiker recounted a moment when a sudden, icy breeze swept through a narrow passage, and the faint sound of sobbing carried across the clearing. When she investigated, there was nothing, only the towering pines and the fading light of dusk. Despite its eerie reputation, Los Pinedos Trail continues to attract visitors. Some seek adventure and the beauty of the forest, while others are drawn by the possibility of experiencing the paranormal firsthand. The trail's mix of natural splendor and unsettling history creates a unique atmosphere, one in which the past and present seem to intertwine. Hikers leave with memories of towering trees, scenic vistas, and the soft murmur of the wind, but often also with an impression that they were not entirely alone on the trail. Walking Los Pinedos Trail is a journey through both nature and legend. Hikers encounter more than scenic views and winding paths. They step into a landscape where tragedy and memory linger, where mysterious lights float among the trees, and where the spirit of a long-departed woman is said to wander. The whispers, shadows, and chilling sensations that persist on the trail are reminders that even the most serene landscapes can hold secrets, and that in the quiet moments of the forest, the past is never truly gone. For those willing to listen, look, and feel, Los Pinedos Trail offers an experience that is as haunting as it is beautiful. A place where nature is splendor and the supernatural coexist in eerie harmony. Perched high above Los Angeles, Inspiration Point in Griffith Park is famed for its sweeping vistas of the sprawling city below. From its rocky overlook, hikers can see the glittering lights of downtown, the Pacific coastline in the distance, and the winding trails that snake through the park's rugged terrain. It is a destination that promises tranquility, exercise, and awe-inspiring scenery. Yet, beneath its natural beauty and urban proximity, lies a darker reputation, one that has grown over decades as tales of eerie encounters and unexplained phenomena have emerged. Many who visit Inspiration Point speak of experiences that cannot be explained by the wind, wildlife, or city noise, suggesting that the overlook is a hotspot for the paranormal. One of the most commonly reported experiences at Inspiration Point is a sudden, inexplicable chill. Hikers often describe reaching the overlook on a sunny afternoon, only to feel a sharp drop in temperature as they approach the edge. The cold seems concentrated, almost as if it emanates from a single point, leaving their bodies tense and alert. Some hikers have said that the chill is accompanied by a strange heaviness, as if the air itself is charged with energy. This phenomenon occurs even during the warmest months, leading many to believe that the spot carries a lingering presence beyond the physical environment. Whispers and murmurs are another common occurrence at Inspiration Point. Visitors frequently report hearing soft, indistinct voices that seem to rise and fall with the wind. At first, the whispers are subtle, almost like the rustle of leaves or distant traffic, but they often grow louder and more distinct as one approaches the edge of the overlook. Some hikers claim to hear their own names called, while others describe vague warnings or phrases that vanish the moment they try to focus on them. One hiker, resting on a bench near the cliff's edge, recalled hearing what sounded like urgent, overlapping voices warning of danger. Yet when she looked around, the area was entirely empty. The experience left her shaken, and she hurried back down the trail, the feeling of being watched lingering long after she left. Dark silhouettes are another unsettling aspect of Inspiration Point's legend. Many visitors report seeing human-shaped shadows moving along the trails or just beyond the overlook. These figures are often fleeting, glimpsed at the corner of the eye or through a thin veil of mist. Sometimes they appear perched on nearby rocks, motionless and observing, only to vanish when directly looked at. One evening, a hiker described noticing a figure standing near the edge, staring toward the city. When he blinked, it had disappeared, leaving behind only the rustling of leaves and the faint echo of his own heartbeat. Such sightings are usually brief but leave a lasting impression, instilling a sense of unease that persists for hours or even days. Inspiration Point's history is closely tied to tragedy, which many believe contributes to its haunted reputation. Over the decades, hikers have suffered accidents on the steep trails leading to and from the overlook. Some have fallen from the rocky cliffs, while others became lost in the winding paths of Griffith Park. Local lore holds that the spirits of these individuals linger at the overlook, their energy concentrated where they last stood, silently observing those who walk the trails today. The combination of natural danger and paranormal legend has created an atmosphere where beauty and fear coexist. drawing both thrill seekers and those interested in the supernatural. Auditory phenomena extend beyond whispers and murmurs. Hikers have reported hearing sudden thuds, the sound of footsteps behind them, and the faint scraping of rocks. These noises often occur when the overlook is otherwise empty, leaving no source to explain them. On several occasions, visitors claim to have felt the impression of someone passing closely behind them, as if an unseen presence were pacing their steps along the rocky trail. One veteran hiker recounted pausing at the overlook only to feel a gentle, inexplicable tug on his sleeve. When he turned, no one was there, yet the sensation was so vivid that he felt compelled to descend immediately. The geography and environment of Inspiration Point seem to amplify these experiences. The combination of dense brush, rocky outcrops, and steep inclines creates pockets of shadow where light rarely penetrates. Fog and mist often roll in from the hills, distorting familiar landmarks and giving the illusion of movement where there is none. Even the city below can contribute to the eerie atmosphere, as the distant sounds of traffic, sirens, and voices blend with natural forest noises, creating the sense that multiple presences are moving through the space at once. The overlook becomes a place where perception and reality intertwine, and where even small stimuli are interpreted through the lens of the unknown. Physical sensations frequently accompany sightings and sounds. Hikers report sudden chills that seem to pass through them in waves, a pressure on their chest or shoulders, and the sensation of being lightly brushed by an unseen hand. One hiker described a moment near dusk when he felt an icy breeze sweep across the overlook, accompanied by what sounded like faint sobbing. The sounds faded when he moved closer, leaving only the echo of the wind and the fading light of evening. Such experiences, though subjective, are reported consistently enough to suggest a pattern, lending credibility to the legend of a haunted presence lingering at Inspiration Point. Despite or perhaps because of its haunted reputation, Inspiration Point continues to draw visitors. Many come for the stunning vistas and exercise, while others seek the thrill of encountering the unexplained. The combination of natural beauty, danger, and paranormal lore creates a unique atmosphere, one that lingers long after hikers have descended back into the city. For those willing to pause, look, and listen, Inspiration Point offers more than a scenic overlook. It provides a glimpse into a space where the energy of the past, the weight of tragedy, and the mystery of the unknown converge. Walking the trails to Inspiration Point is a journey through both natural splendor and unsettling legend. Visitors encounter breathtaking views of Los Angeles, yet they also step into a landscape haunted by whispers, shadows, and the memory of those who came before. The chilling sensations, mysterious voices, and fleeting figures remind hikers that even the most celebrated locations can carry secrets, and that sometimes the beauty of a place is intertwined with a presence that cannot be seen but is always felt. For those who experience it, Inspiration Point is more than a hike. It is a haunting encounter with the unseen forces that linger at the edges of our perception. And there you have it, 25 of the most haunted hikes in California, each with its own chilling stories and unexplained mysteries. From shadowy figures in the forests to restless spirits along the waterfalls, these trails remind us that the beauty of nature often hides secrets best left undisturbed. If you ever find yourself venturing onto these paths, remember to tread carefully, respect the history that lingers, and keep your eyes and ears open. You never know what might be watching from the shadows. Thank you for joining me on this journey into California's haunted trails. If you enjoyed these spine-tingling tales, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of our future ghostly adventures. Until next time, keep your lanterns lit, your courage high, and remember the next shadow you see might not be entirely human.